Josh, what is common ops?
53456.
Receiving at the moment. Hey, okay. Change the name, start streaming.
Pretty simple, right?
Yeah. Hi, I'm the Senator for the SGA Senate. We haven't had anybody come up to the projector yet.
Josh, have you located
Okay, thank you. None of it's on.
I'm sorry?
Have you located the speaker?
Nope.
No.
And then I can get all this stress off my phone. So
They said that's weird. Stress send them up at 5.
every single day. I have so many things to tell you.
Great. Hi. What's going on here? Oh, later than usual. Comes ops. It's coming up. Oh, well, that's fine.
About that.
Oh, you're fine. Bear with me here. Alright. Did everybody get a second to look at the minutes? Yes. Yes. Any burbles? Yes. Alright, so are we approving the minutes from yes. Yes. Alright. I can't see the agenda, but it was sent out. Everybody look at the agenda. Does anybody have any issues with it? No. Josh?
Sure.
Do you want to add something to the agenda?
Yeah, we can talk about as part of the budget, like the election will say. That's fine.
If you're from the legislation,
Would you like me to add it? Okay.
does anybody have any issue going over legislation? Josh wants to propose legislation for this election board tonight, is correct, Josh?
Yes.
We talked about it 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yep.
Nobody has any issues?
I would just kind of just to be aware of what's going on for the budget discussion.
Sure.
So are we trying to like finalize what was the kind of the goal?
So we're going over the budget one last time because of this essay for
Right.
this Friday.
Okay.
Just like approving it as a Senate basically, so we're all comfortable sending it forward. But also there's some edits that David and I talked about in our last meeting that I should bring up to you guys. So that's it. It shouldn't take long. Okay.
Good.
All right. Sorry. Alrighty. Alright. Introductions. There's no new people here. So we're just gonna get out of the way on that. Okay. Pardon.
Hey friends, remember 2 weeks ago when that thing happened? No, like.
Can you explain what that thing is?
So 2 weeks ago, or however long ago, it's been a time. I presented joint legislation 15, 17, 18 about the constitutional amendments that Carly and I would like to make through the external review SGA conducted a year ago, so that we can then hopefully pass it through the Senate, the Finance Board, so it can be on next week's election ballot as a question. Because it is a constitutional amendment, it has to be voted on by the undergraduate population. Okay. And since then, not much has changed. We heard back from legal counsel, and we made those changes reflected on here. It's the same, just nothing major has changed.
Do you want me to pull it back into the Senate?
What?
Is there anything else you need to go over? Do you want me to pull it?
This is it. This is it. So we hope to pass it tonight.
Alright. How's everybody feeling? You guys feel like you need a refresher on what we talked about 2 weeks ago?
Yes, please.
Refreshing.
About
What we talked about? What document was it?
the amendments we made to the SGA Constitution. So I made a document about those amendments that were on that I asked everyone to review that week so that they can then make comments themselves. So part of the changes that are on there, if you look through the document, are changes of language to be gender inclusive. Changes, I'm also pulling it up on here, wherever.
Is not in the attachment?
That's just the legislation.
It's not. I made a summary sheet. So just give me like one quick moment.
This has already been discussed with the finance board.
It's been mentioned at finance, but I just want to send her a
Right, was it?
Yeah. So that, again, I asked everyone in the Senate to review this. If you didn't, oh well. Constitution is a bullet. Those are the bullets of what that we're proposing. So the change of language to be gender inclusive, departmental change to say campus life since student life is dead. Concerns of a post May 15th inauguration with no elected officers to be given the oath, since at that moment there'll be no person who is qualified to give it except for the university president and designees around that you will include one. So we included the SGA advisor under that for sheer convenience. There's the concerns of the lack of a removal procedure of how eligibility is checked and how that is communicated, and the response to those findings. That was also reported 2 weeks ago in the same document, sort of laying out a simple process that will later be reflected in the bylaws when we get to that portion. There's establishment and clarification that appointed officers cannot be removed because of discriminatory purposes. So we included UMBC's discriminatory clause into that section of 5.6.4 for change of hearing from trial, because that's more for our educational processes and has a different legal implication than trial does, assuming that it is like the what's it called? The judicial system that exists elsewhere. And then the removal of the only reference to a fall semester election in all of our guiding documents, therefore making it obsolete, of it just saying elections, whenever that may happen.
So removing fall semester election.
Just removing, so it says, place yes or no questions on the ballot in the next spring semester election or fall semester election, wherever it is suited to say in the next election.
But if there's no election established in the fall and we want to have a petition, then that means it has to be defaulted to this year?
It's just in the next election. So in the case that there's a special election proposed and decided on to happen, that would then be considered the next election according to our guiding docs.
Okay.
Sorry, this is a reoccurring thing now, but I'm seeing one more change to follow we made along with these. So you mentioned changing the description for reasons that an officer cannot be terminated to incorporate Venus' non-discrimination clause, which makes sense. It includes more things than SGAs do. But there's another part of the Constitution where every member of SGA is given the right against discrimination on the same basis. That list also ought to change to reflect the university's longer list of things you can't discriminate against people for.
And that is also the Constitution.
Yep, section 6.4.
Look it up.
Yeah. I think there's only.
Is there any senators that have not to cut Josh off, but I'm curious. You said 6.4.
Yep. Right there. just starting with the word race without a substitute, the longer pause, which is already incorporated into the other section.
Huh? Yeah, I made this clear when we were considering the appeals board last year now, yeah. But it kind of is iffy when, like, this is the only time ever that a department is mentioned inside of the Constitution. It's mentioned in other documents, but it is not ever mentioned inside the Constitution. So I hesitate to say, like, we should have, like, the director of student life or campus life having that in this document at all. I would leave that to the bylaws. I understand the sentiment of having the director of campus life appoint the convener of the appeals board, and I agree with it. I just don't think it should be in the Constitution. I think it's more appropriate for the bylaws.
Consistency purposes?
For consistency and also relationships. So yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So like if there's ever like a hostile relationship, it's not a thing where the SGA is like bound to something. Like we're bound to everything in the Constitution until the next time the Constitution can be edited.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Bylaws.
But the bylaws can be edited by a supermajority of the Senate Finance Board.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Or a supermajority.
I call it a supermajority, yeah, because it's veto proof. Because a supermajority is veto proof. So that's why I call it supermajority. Yeah.
I think that there's a lot about the Constitution that probably bears revisiting. What you're describing is already there,
Yes.
right? So you're proposing, in addition to these amendments that
A
all
tech-
derive from the reason I would hesitate to do that here at the very last meeting before the election is that you haven't had time to study what the bylaws say in relation to what the Constitution says to determine what problems is that going to create.
Sure. Absolutely. I understand, yes. And this is perhaps a conversation for later. I just want to make sure it was recorded that I said yes.
The thing that you talked about a little bit, like 5 minutes ago, it's now added at the bottom of that joint legislation. Any other comments, concerns, ideas, proposals, additions?
Sorry, I'm just really like lost. It's probably because I can keep up with it. So
Okay.
this is us trying to amend the vetting documents.
Yes.
Okay.
So Lily, if you can go to the summary. I don't know what's happening to me. So just a little bit of background is last year we had someone from the University of California, Los Angeles campus review our guiding documents, what we call an external review, to pretty much see if there's any if there's anything faltering, if there's any inconsistencies, legal things that we should probably get up on. And they gave us and submitted that evaluation to us last year, a little bit more than a year ago actually. So what I'm currently doing is proposing the changes according to the external review, solely on the basis of things that might potentially put us in legal trouble, or any small technical things that there is little to no philosophy behind having that change. Because these are technical things / legal binding things that we will need to change for the case of, being sued, and we don't want that. David and I, as well as Carly, reviewed these changes to see what was most pertinent, what made sense from the external review, what didn't, and determine what on that list should be changed. So this is the list. And then we had that checked, and this is for, let me backtrack a little bit. And this is for the Constitution. The Constitution is the omnipotent being of how SGA sort of functions outside of, you know, higher university functions. So because of the high level the Constitution is, and because voting on it isn't enough, because all constitutional amendments has to get voted on by a majority, by our, I keep saying our constitutional retriever, by our undergraduate students. Our elections are in a week, and I am personally hoping to vote on this today so that tomorrow they also vote on it and approve it, so that Sophia LaPrepsi and the rest of the election board can start working on wording for that election referendum next week.
So you're looking to pass this by today?
Yes.
Okay.
So remember, I think it would be helpful to go through the attachment to the legislation that actually shows what the amendments are, because you should know what you're approving. I would say it's true that the consultant's review is designed to protect SGA and identify gaps and problems, but there is some philosophy to it that's worth paying attention to. Like if you're going to make the language more gender inclusive, for example, or expand the list of things that you can't discriminate against, where there's some philosophy there that it's worth your taking ownership of if you adopt it. The other really important thing is this has been a slow process to get to these changes to the Constitution, but the most important legal protections that the consultant recommended were not changes to the Constitution, but changes to the other guiding documents. So not only does that still have to be followed up on, but the fact that these changes are being made to the Constitution is going to make the Constitution inconsistent with some of the other guiding documents, which will then need to be amended to make them align with the Constitution. So for those of you who will be continuing in the Senate, there's really important work still to do.
And just to speak to like your point about like we should know what we're approving. I guess like this is like mostly my fault, but like I completely forgot about this. So like I don't know how much we can contribute if we like are not kept up to date. So like maybe like an updating process or like a reminder process to like remind us to like actually, because if I approve this right now, I'd not be approving it. I'd just be saying yes, because and I don't feel like morally right doing that because I don't know what's happening. Yeah, I heard that.
Which is fair, but still puts them in a situation where if we don't vote on it tonight,
Yeah.
the undergraduate body won't be able to vote on it next week.
Yeah.
And Rory did present it, and we did say that in like 2 weeks, I was expecting the people look over it and ask questions like we did.
Yeah, and I completely like I understand like it's definitely my fault, but like
Right.
yeah,
I understand.
for like
what you're saying.
future like reference.
Back,
Yeah.
David and Josh did a job.
So can we scroll through the actual changes, which are at the bottom of the legislation? I don't think there's a lot of words to it, but I don't think that what's actually happening is too complicated.
Okay.
Rory, did you come?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 3.2, changing his or her to their. And that is pretty much the basis of the gender inclusive language, which you may see in upcoming things like 3.3 and 3.7. Yeah, 3.7 where you're seeing all of that. And everything is indicated by a strike through if it's being deleted, and italics and red ink, red display. Yeah. And then 4.2.2, the departmental name change, as well as this, just ensuring that we're talking about the current academic year, not just some random October 1st, of like 2012. The volumes. Yeah. Then 5.5 is the part where I said indicates that there is a post May 15th inauguration where there's no one able to give the oath of office except for the UMC president or designees thereof, because we acknowledge how busy that important man can be. We're including the SGA advisor in that case, who will then be able to administer that oath. Not to say that it's a huge possibility that happening, but in the case that there might be, we have that as sort of a precautionary measure. Are we good so far? 5.6.2, gender, 5.6.1. That looks like a lot of change. Yeah, so that's pretty much trying to make some sort of a process in the case that a SGA officer is found ineligible, either through academic or judicial requirements, and there being no process saying, one, how that happens, if there's an appeals process at all, and what that might be. So this pretty much says, what actually happens realistically, and that the SGA advisor checks it through their avenues of being connected with the rest of the campus. And once they're advised, that seat will be vacated, but if they wish to appeal, they can to our existing appeals board within due time, and then if the appeals board finds that the ineligibility is found to be in fault, then the removed officer will then be reinstated to that position without the need of legislation or anything of that sort. But if the advisor is right, then the, what was the word we used? The finding stands.
And all of the things that Mark, the senator, or this is just for all of SGA or for Senate?
This is for everyone who receives a stipend.
Okay.
Yes.
So are these absolute ineligibility? So for example, if you didn't meet the GPA requirement, I don't know how to explain.
So yeah, I think I know what you're getting at, and stop me if I'm not going there.
Okay.
So in the case of, I'm going to use Carly, you're right there, we're friends. So say Carly had a rough semester and she had a 2.2 semester GPA. David does his jazz over the winter break and checks it and is like, oh no, beep beep, and sends Carly an email saying, hey, just letting you know, let's have a conversation. What happened was, from Carly's part. And then at that point, Carly will then yeah, I know what happened, blah, blah, blah. But if Carly's like, no, I had a 3.0 semester, she then has the opportunity within a 48-hour window to appeal that to the appeals board. The appeals board will then convene and say, and review the findings of, David, the information he received from perhaps academic life, TM, and then Carly will give her spiel. However, the appeals board reviews this, which will then later be laid out in the bylaws once we get to it. If the appeals board finds David was wrong, they would pretty much say David was wrong. Carly would then be reinstated in her position, and it would be kind of as if nothing happened. But if they find that David was correct, Carly will then remain removed from that position.
So all of the ineligibilities are absolute. If there's no partial, I don't know how to.
Right. So there are. Right. So there are some cases where some folks may not meet the semester GPA requirement, but meet the academic requirement. So then usually well, any branch actually, can then reinstate that person because they would technically, through technical verbiage, meet the eligibility requirements after that. That's how we reinstated Miles, as well as other folks from Josh's branch.
So could these like
Oh,
technicalities?
not yet?
You did
Not
that.
at all.
In the past,
But in the
yeah.
past, we have. That's how we reinstate Miles.
But it doesn't go totally unseen. It
Yeah.
has to go through this.
And that's for every position except for president,
Correct.
because you can't do that for president.
Okay. So like, could these technicalities not prove like to be a problem ever, or like?
They depends which technicalities you're talking about.
Like
Joshua
in
can
this,
talk about it.
like in this case, was it
Wait, hold on.
I'm sorry.
David was saying something.
Oh.
Can I?
Well, I
Go ahead. I was just going to say, can you do David and Josh? Sorry.
to clarify what the eligibility criteria are. There's a set of criteria that applies at the point that you're applying to be in office. You have to have a cumulative GPA over whatever, and then you can't be on disciplinary suspension or expulsion. And then there's a slightly different set of requirements that applies if you're in the office from one side to the other, which is slightly more strict because you have to have earned a minimum GPA in every semester that you're in office. So it is possible for you to lose your eligibility to continue, but immediately you have eligibility to apply anew. So the penalty for you for having been eligible is that you have to apply for a job there,
Okay.
because otherwise it may be yours automatically. And SGA might legitimately say, well, hold on, if you became ineligible, it might not be in your interest or our interest to have you assume that office again. We have to look into the.
So SGA would like take, like, I guess like take the application into its hands. So like you can just deny the application
Yeah, so
entirely.
at
Okay.
that point, it will then become, usually at some point it will go through the Senate. It will then become a philosophical question of what that might mean to the organization, to the person, and what that reflects upon that. Because it has happened in the past, and from Lillian and I's experience, and I think Josh was there too, it was a huge thing that happened last year that was a potential proposal for an amendment, but folks didn't see that as necessary.
I'm not going to say it's not still an issue to some people because it is a technical loophole that can have people leave the organization and come back in through a different hole. But based on conversations from last year and just giving background to the Senate for those who don't return, it's honestly, it's a conversation based around GPA requirement to be in the organization, and it can always be brought back up, but as of last year, we decided not to change it.
So the fact that it's a question, like, what? Oh, so the fact that it's like a philosophical question, right? Could that not be something like, I guess like someone could use against you? So like against the Constitution, the fact that like you should be given the right to apply,
Right.
but you're going to put them, you're going to like I guess like question their application because of the
fact that they're
Correct.
the fact that they were removed because of like a GPA requirement.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it really philosophical or is it like objective because it's a GPA?
Some would say objective, some would say philosophical. That's why it's philosophical, I would say.
And that's where your power
but-
bill comes in.
Yeah, but this specifically focuses on that first step of an officer being removed.
Okay.
So this does not resolve the question of what should be the eligibility criteria. The criteria themselves are not changing here.
Okay.
What it does accomplish is right now, if I do a records check and find that someone's ineligible, I say, sorry, you have been immediately and automatically removed from office, and they say my transcript has an error in it. Now we're in an impasse. So are you allowed to keep voting while you allege that there's an error? Since there are limits to how much private information about someone can be revealed in a public setting, can the advisor even come to the Senate and say one of your members is not eligible, that person should not be allowed to vote? So this provides a way to resolve those challenges to the advisor's initial determination.
Yeah, I like this a lot because like spelling out structure is beautiful. But I would like to, I want it noted in the minutes that the advisor does not have this much power, like anywhere in the documents. I'm not opposed to it, But I just want to make sure that everyone knew that. Like, not spelled out. This may have been how it's played out many times. But I'm just saying, like,
Because technically they do the eligibility checks.
Yes.
So you can argue
We do it in practice, but it's
it's
never.
not. It's never. Yeah, it's in practice, but not in policy. Now you're putting it in policy. So I just want to make sure that everyone is okay with that, because there's a difference between practice and policy, a very big difference there. So, I mean, that's up to each individual person to decide.
So, back to like the philosophical thing, I'm sorry, it's just like, I don't know, I just need like clarification, but like, the SGA advisor can only like check your grades, right? Like, that's the only thing that they can.
Your academic.
Yeah. Or like,
Yes. Yes. To
So-
make it effective, yes.
they can check your grades and say, point blank period, you're either eligible or not eligible. But like us moving forward with the whole like, so back to like your statement about like, is it like ethical or like even possible legally for you to tell the governing body that their member is ineligible? But this doesn't really lay it out. Or what?
This does.
So like it says that.
It says the SGA advisor shall periodically check university records to verify SGA officers' academic and disciplinary eligibility.
So during that like 48 hours, right? Like when
No, this is from their periodic checks. So the SGA advisor, whomever it may be, will check periodically to make sure that we're eligible to maintain our position.
That is correct. That suppose the person files an appeal during the 48 hours after that determination is made, while the person could file an appeal, the person's considered removed from office. But there's no specific guidance here about what is the SGA advisor doing in the event that they're dissenting during those 48 hours. The person says, I'm not going to acknowledge your determination.
Yeah. I'll add my personal 2 cents. I think I like the spelling out of this policy. I agree with it. However, I do not think it is like appropriate for the Constitution. I think it is very appropriate for the bylaws once again, but it's kind of iffy to spell out like in your highest document like such a strict policy. Like the Constitution, the goal of the Constitution of any Constitution is to lay out basic structure. Like, and that's like it's supposed to be a shell. Then you're supposed to spell out all your policies in the bylaws and then all the other guiding documents. That's the role. That's the balance of them all. That way, if you do something like crazy, let's say you get a crazy SGA advisor, and this is not David, but like, and they totally circumvent and say, well, this person's transcript is wrong, but right now it says that they have a C, and they'll have a C for a long time. So like, therefore, they're just off. Like that kind of puts you back into a corner. Again, giving one person so much power in your highest guiding document.
Okay, I want to put him join my seat for a second. Does everybody understand the difference between the bylaws and the Constitution? Yes. All good. Okay. Jordan.
Would it make more sense? Can you go back to the wording actually? To kind of omit like the specifics, like the 48 hours and stuff like that, and just be like the SGA advisor is just going to check, and then they're going to talk to the appeals board and something like that. Just not making it so specific.
What you could do is instead like put the sentence that was deleted out and then say as specified in the bylaws and then spell all that out in the bylaws. Like exactly what you just said.
Because I don't necessarily think the process is wrong.
Yeah,
I think the process is
Right, yeah, I agree.
the way it's spelled out is correct.
I think it's
That
fair.
is the way it happens necessarily. Like, David will get a notification, he'll tell you in winter break, like you did this and blah blah blah, and then have that conversation. But I guess I do agree that it could be better in the bylaws, now that I'm thinking about it.
I think that's fine, but the current Constitution text needs to change. It's inconsistent with the new text that you're proposing for the bylaws.
I'm sorry.
The current text of the Constitution, which is the part that's crossed out here, is inconsistent with this, with the new text.
Oh, I'm saying like
You can't both put put this in the bylaws and leave the current constitution text alone, because then they're contradicting each other.
No, I was saying like put like an as specified in the bylaw. Like you can say the process is specified in the bylaws, like referring to the bylaws, like kind of like it is in other sections of the Constitution.
I mean, it's not necessarily all that wrong. It's not as elaborate as it should be, but technically you are immediately removed from your position, and you can file an appeal. Well, we just talked about how technically you're removed.
No, but what David said is true. Like if you're immediately, like if the Constitution says you're immediately removed, there's no second guessing that. There's no appeal process unless it's valued.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't think the sentence is 100% wrong, but it needs to be flourished out a little bit more is what I'm saying.
Yes.
It just needs to be clarified to what we're trying to do. Anisha?
I'm just curious, how often might that situation actually arise? Because if I understand, when you're checking their like academic and disciplinary eligibility, it's usually at the beginning of semester when you're getting confirmed, and then at the during winter break, right?
Yes.
And so for people, I mean, unless there's a rare occasion that there's actually a Senate meeting over the winter break, that check shouldn't happen while you're actually in session. So the times that you'll have to actually worry about someone having a meeting within those 48 hours that they have to participate in.
But there's still judicial check though too. So
you can anytime.
So question, David, if somebody got in trouble in their like residence hall for something,
Yes.
they went through the judicial process and that was at the end of the semester, would you be notified of that? Or would you have to
I'd have to
physically go in and check? So, I don't know, it's a good question, but I think
Because I like
err on the side of caution to still give you the opportunity though.
No, I agree with you, but I'm like kind of following in mind. If this is one of those like rare, I mean, it's probably not going to be an all-the-time occurrence that this happens. So I'm also erring on the side of like, why would we put this in the Constitution when it happens twice?
But which are you saying the Senate meeting happening is rare, or the
The check, right,
The check, and then during that 48 hours, there's
Okay.
a meeting.
David.
That situation.
I don't think you need to worry about the 48-hour thing.
Okay.
Right, I think it's very remote, and there's no way that we can write a clause detailed enough to
Right.
cover every contingency. This requires a whole lot less guesswork than the current one-liner. What I think you can do is remove this clause from the Constitution completely, make that the amendment. But if you're going to do that, amend the bylaws right now with
This
the
text.
italicized text. Yeah, add a new clause in the bylaws and put that there. Because we should not have a situation where, for a period of time, there's nothing said in the guiding documents about what happens when someone becomes an eligible.
So then, but like, why would you not have it? I mean, like, I think it reads fine, and it's very clear, so I don't know why we wouldn't have it in the Constitution versus the bylaws. I guess that's just, I don't know, like, what's the advantage of having it in the bylaws versus the Constitution, besides being able to amend it?
It's also, yeah, it's amendability, but it's also a thing of what if someone goes rogue, right? At the end of the day, we want the stewards of the guiding documents to still be the Senate and the Finance Board, and like the ultimate rule of law. So if leaving it, like, I'm always hesitant to bestow more power onto people that are not members of the Senate and Finance Board, because then it can get iffy about like, oh, is the administration like trying to hijack the SGA and things like that. So like it can get really messy. So and rightfully so. I mean, like someone that may be concerned about that, as we've had past SGA officers that are very concerned about the administration's role in the SGA. That concern is valid. So again, just making sure that your power is still your power in the ultimate rule of law, and then at the end of the day, if things need to change, they can easily be changed by a 2/3 vote, supermajority vote of the Senate and the Finance Board.
Yeah, I just don't, I feel like I understand that point, but I don't think this is where, like, this is what we should be concerned about, because I'm not going to go in and check someone's grades. Like, that's not any of my business to, like, go into someone's transcript. I really, like, yes, it's an administrative person who has to do it, but it's also the SGA advisor who I would probably have a close relationship with. So, like, I understand it as we're looking broadly at the document, but with this clause in particular, I really don't think we can make it so that the Senate and Finance Board have complete control over it, because that would just be morally and ethically wrong. Like, it would not make sense for us to be the stewards of someone's academic.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, in eligibility, like, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with the statement itself. I'm just saying where it's placed.
Oh,
like,
I think
yeah, where it's placed is very important.
Yeah, I think putting it in the bylaws makes more sense. That's more operationally how we do things than what we do. Mary, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I think like referring back to like Josh's mention about like the conventions of just like governing texts like this, how exactly like can we just omit something like completely from the constitution without even hinting towards it?
I think because constitutional amendments have to go eventually go to Dr. Hrabowski, I think a mention of it is worthy. But
So
again,
how subtly would we mention it in the Constitution? Like,
Wait, I'm not a loss. Can you
So-
elaborate more what you're, or can somebody clarify?
So-
I'm a loss where your mind is.
Well, I just want to personally make sure that we're deciding whether or not we're keeping this in the Constitution rather than how we're voting.
yeah,
Because I don't know, I've heard from like 4 people, so I don't know how the rest of the group stands.
yeah, that's what I was asking.
It might be worth going to the current constitution and seeing where that clause appears to get a sense of the context. It's 5.6.1.
yeah, removal.
So it's the first in a long list of different ways that you can leave office. And that section about termination spells out a very detailed process by which this happens. It's not. Well, to me, the point is the entire process is here. This is not an abbreviated version that then gets elaborated in bylaws. So to me, seeing this context makes me think, yeah, leave it in the Constitution.
And I will add on to that, there is no ineligibility article or sub-article in the current bylaws. Not to say that we can't, but there currently is not any mention of ineligibility except for the case of the appeals board.
Sorry,
Sorry, did you repeat why you said that you don't see why it should change in the Constitution?
I think the italicized text should replace the current text of the ineligibility provision of the Constitution. So I think that's a good change. It seems to me that the entire issue of how you leave office is addressed comprehensively in the Constitution and not at all in the bylaws. So if you wanted to move all of that to the bylaws, I think you can make that argument.
I don't have one in our hand.
Yeah.
That's what David's saying, like how elaborate this is right here. You might as well just like keep it matching.
I agree with the latter. Yeah, that's just me. Like, as in like more specific in the bylaws.
So you're
Yeah.
saying you'd rather move it all to the bylaws?
Yeah.
That's what
Instead of, I feel like everyone's discussing about doing it one place or another, why don't we just do it together? Like, just have it equally elaborated in both documents, and if it needs to be changed further, point to it, like Josh said earlier, point to it in the Constitution that such and such is elaborated more in the bylaws and just like the bylaws. And that way, it stays like how it is, how you are amended it here, and then in the bylaws, if something ever needs to be added to it, it's just added to it. Fine.
Unless you want to spend a good deal more of this meeting on this question, like I would say the change is beneficial because right now we have an ambiguity about how eligibility is determined. The issue of where it belongs, there's some thinking. We know that there's more amendments to the bylaws and the other guiding documents coming, but not amendments to the Constitution based on the consultant's recommendation. Like I would say, if after a summer of thinking about it, SGA decides the Constitution is the wrong place for this, after all, it belongs in the bylaws, that can become a part of comprehensive reform, which the Constitution part's going to have to go back to an election, but I don't know that you can, I don't know if it makes sense to try to decide tonight to move this to the bylaws. And even though I buy what Josh is saying, that the Constitution is for structure and the bylaws is for elaboration of details like this, I don't know that this exposes you to so much danger from a renegade SGA advisor that you need to consider it tonight rather than taking the last opportunity to amend the Constitution before the election.
Do you have any thoughts on this?
Right.
Sure.
Back to the judges. Hello. Hello. Hi. Were we expecting this one?
Oh, with the retriever.
Retriever.
Yeah.
Okay. Tower. Welcome.
Does it help you to turn the lights on?
That's fine.
OP.
Right. I was just confused. Sorry.
It's okay. Okay. Any other questions? So what I'm hearing is that we might have further feelings about eventually moving all of this into bylaws, not like operationally how termination, all that happens. But for right now, we should just change the language.
I don't even think the language needs to be changed. Honestly, we're a week out from elections. I feel like we should keep it in and kind of, like what David said, see how it goes over the summer, and then if we need to change it, because we have to do more.
I'm saying the change that Corrado is proposing.
Oh yes, sorry.
Not, I'm just, yeah, the one-liner needs to
Sorry,
change.
sorry.
So when we're thinking about like approving it now and then changing it later down the road, are we going to? So we're going to make another constitutional amendment.
If the next Senate decides to do that.
So, this is about like you asked specifically, like, are we fine with how it is wording now? Yeah, I think it's fine.
I guess, are we okay with leaving it in the Constitution right now? Even if it's not permanently gonna stay. Remember, we can change it after. Right.
And if you have every right to vote no, if you don't agree with that.
Just a question. So like, amendability of like the bylaws are like still like up, right? The Constitution is the only thing that needs to pass like on top.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if we take something out of the Constitution, we'll still have to get that passed, correct?
I think this is fine. So, I think this is fine. I just wanted like I guess like to speak to like Manisha's point, like the specificity isn't really necessary, especially if it's not likely to happen. But I just feel like it should be there as like a cautionary measure, like you said. Yeah. So I guess we could further articulate that in the bylaw.
I just feel like at this moment right now, like, it's kind of like if we put this up in the bylaws, we have to change this, and then we have to change the bylaws like right now. And either way, the bylaws are going to change. It seems like the bylaws are going to change either way by like just the discussion, this conversation. So, I guess my thought is just.
We don't have to change the bylaws right now.
Yeah, you don't have to change the bylaws right now if you keep the eligibility like this. So. It's kind of just as the fact as, do we want to go and talk about the bylaws if we want to change the eligibility part right now? Because we have to change that right now, right?
The changes.
Yeah.
So right now, the bylaws don't talk about eligibility, group
Right.
eligibility. And the Constitution has this one sentence that is a practical matter, gives the advisor all the power.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I know over the last however many years I've been running eligibility checks, as a practical matter, I've been able to say, oh, you give you 2 weeks to correct the false report on your transcript. Okay, well, I'm going to not do the eligibility check to give you that time, but I'm not going to give you more than those 2 weeks because the semester's going to start and you can't go to a meeting while this is still hanging in the air.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of power.
Yeah.
This, as a practical matter, will constrain the SGA advisor's power. So to me, you're fine adding this language. It actually will constrain the next SGA advisor's power when it comes to the eligibility checks, and you may want to revisit it later along with a whole bunch of bylaw amendments.
I think that could be a really good like summer project for the next summer work on is like going through together and figuring out where they want to change things. That way by the time the summer is over, people can have things written out and get it figured out. Is that okay? So like your feeling of like wanting to figure it out now.
Yeah.
Alright. How are we going to move on from this? Cool. Alright.
Recommendation. It's adding the full discriminatory clause that UMBC has currently where it stands. It's saying that it just happens that a notice of termination is given, and no, that's not it. That's I'm looking at the right thing. Yeah. That it just happens essentially. But that doesn't give any protection against like those. It doesn't give any protection in the sense that folks can still be removed for discriminatory purposes based on our current language. So this incorporates our UMBC discriminatory clause is drawn from it that no officer shall be determined by the list. Yeah. And then the notices of discrimination is just that the gender inclusion aspect, as well as that that there is a notice of termination that is signed and dated by an officer with authority to remove that person from their office. Yeah.
I mean, I'll say it after you've done Gerardo.
Yeah. The reason we added signed and dated was because the legal counsel actually had a point on it that I will be pulling up right now. I believe I can remember her chance.
He looks it up too. This sounds like legal jargon.
Yeah, but
It's more precise.
Yes.
I think that was an attorney.
yeah. Yeah, that they just said signed and dated question mark. We're like, yeah, Josh.
Are you done? Like completely?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, y'all. One more technical change that stares me in the face every time I look at this Constitution it's a technical change that's been left over from the Supreme Court for years. So if anyone has the current version of the Constitution, can we turn our Bibles to section 5.3? I'm glad you got that joke, Jordan. I'm glad you got that joke.
It took a while, but you got it. It's like a genuine laugh.
I'm glad you got that joke. Okay, great. All right. This last sentence is incorrect because it's left over from the time we had the Supreme Court. It says section 5.4. I'm sorry. Because section numbers changed. Sorry. All other SGA officers' terms shall end at 6 p.m. at local time each May 15th. That's supposed to say all SGA officers' terms. Other is left over because the election board and the Supreme Court had different terms of office in the like I can read what it used to. I can read to you exactly what it used to say. It said everything up to bylaws, right? And then it said the election board chair shall serve until their graduation or removal. Other election board members and the Supreme Court judge advocate shall serve a term of 2 years ending at 6 p.m. local time, May 15th, at the end of the second school year. Then it said all other SGA officers' terms shall end at 6 p.m. local time, right? So the word other in that sentence is incorrect. It stares me in the face every time I look at this.
So just take out the word other.
Yes, that's it.
Perfection.
Very small.
Thank God it doesn't say second school year, because that is disgusting.
Oh no, because you know the
No, I know, it
two
just
year
sounds,
terms, yeah.
it just sounds ugly.
And the election board was until they graduated. So if you appointed a freshman, they did 3 years of the election board.
Imagine that. 3 whole years.
Ooh, I actually like that one, but like we won't go into debate about that.
Or are you working on that?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you want me to just go forward with just explaining like they, them?
I can.
Oh, okay.
Right, I can. No.
Okay.
Is everyone okay with that proposal of just removing other?
Or, does that make sense to everybody? Because all of us are done. 6 p.m.
Or sooner?
Okay. Well.
Okay, let's not go into that.
All right.
5.6.5, gender. There are several points where causing harm to UMBC undergraduates are continuously removed. Legal counsel actually made a point that the prerequisite of actual harm to UMBC undergrads is unnecessary, and that it just makes sense to add it to that less clause on that section. Yeah.
Can remove officers because they cause harm to undergraduates, but it doesn't have to harm undergraduates to be grounds for removal.
So I'm thinking like, what would be covered under this, and then what changes because you're changing it. So I'm thinking, what if? Because I don't know who has read the Code of Student Conduct in this room, like ever. I read the entire thing last year, but like, has anyone like read the Code of Student Conduct?
Yes.
There are several points in the Code of Student Conduct that, I mean, I personally disagree with. I won't say which parts, but like, I think this is like causing harm to UMBC undergraduates. For me, in my mind, says that whatever policy you're breaking, as long as it causes harm to undergraduates, that's what qualifies you for removal. But by removing it, you're saying that any policy, if I jump out the window, which would be a violation of UMBC policy, I could now be impeached for my jumping out the window.
Can be, but probably wouldn't be. But presumably, if one of you murders someone who's not a UMBC undergraduate, the rest of you would not be able to impeach and remove the person.
True. Yes, that's also true. I didn't think about that. That's very true. I cannot argue with this statement.
Many could argue jumping out the window reflects negatively upon.
Okay, if you want to.
I mean, if the president initiates jumping out windows,
okay,
that's a bad reflection.
I'll be more specific. One of the rules in the Code of Student Conduct, which I take issue with, is failure to comply with the request of a university official.
AKA me.
So like there was a conflict of interest between the election board and the administration a few years ago, and like they were threatened with a charge, like a judicial charge. So I'm just like, I kind of take issue with bringing, like when someone is challenging the administration, I take issue with like them being judicially brought to like student judicial programs and their SGA position being in jeopardy. So that's just my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. Please do or don't do as you wish.
All right, back to the thing. All right, so are we good with the language here, or am I hearing that we need to change it?
Okay, so was that last discussion about changing it to encompass like just people or just?
I have no idea. That's what I'm asking them.
Because, like David just said, like remove causing harm to UBC undergraduates. Does that mean that the idea of just that Like it doesn't matter anymore, or is it added somewhere else?
The puzzle.
Like, are you removing it and putting it somewhere else?
Yes.
It's down.
It's still there.
It's down at the bottom. Do you see it?
Oh, so that encompasses like all of it. Like you don't need to put it in every line.
Well, the idea is, as it stands right now, if you don't find that the person caused harm to undergraduates, then violating a rule or policy is not grounds for removal. Only the harm to the NBC undergraduate. By moving it down, you make individual violations one potential grounds for removal, but separately causing harm to undergraduates is grounds for removal.
Okay.
So should it be harm to undergraduates and like anybody else, or just undergraduates?
No, I think if you cause harm to someone else, it'll be covered under something else.
Okay.
That'd be
Violating the
like,
law.
laws, yeah, of like battery and assault or something. Like, yeah.
Okay.
So we're good to.
Yeah, I guess I don't think this is relevant, but like actually I forgot my question.
Comes back to us. Alright.
Our question.
Huh?
Question.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Josh, are your concerns addressed?
No, it's fine though. I just wanted them noted. But most of the things I say, I just want them in the minutes. So just
Josh
like,
feels passionate, he'll come back to it.
no. I won't say it anymore. If I feel passionate, I will not say it. Yep. I put my thing out there. If I address it, I address it.
Brandon, did you want to address Josh's concerns?
Yeah, I have a question.
All right.
If there's a potential disagreement between an SGA officer and administration that leads to judicial sanctions, how would we specify it in our constitution that wasn't? Like, how do you change the wording?
Well, because honestly, that gets kind of hard because it's also how did that SGA representative go against administration? Like, for example, you can do it very politely in some of the ways that we do it, like advocacy-wise on SGA's behalf, but then there's also very disrespectful ways to go against administration that if you didn't word it properly, somebody could really hurt the relationship that SGA has with some of the students and not be penalized for it at all. Or not give us the power to have grounds to remove them potentially.
Would that not be covered under the reckless behavior that brings disgrace upon SGA?
But that's reckless behavior is ambiguous though. If you just leave that.
It's subjective.
Yeah.
Like my reckless behavior might not be your reckless behavior.
Yeah.
But someone can be impeached if there's a collective thought of the SGA
Yeah.
that it is reckless behavior.
Yeah.
So I think you guys addressed it, but like somebody like being penalized by administration that in turn affects SGA. That was a question, right?
Yeah.
If somebody like does something that hurts SGA and is penalized by administration, would that even be in our hands? Like
It would depend. It would depend on like if it's a judicial thing, if at some point you do get a judicial sanction of some sort that would not necessarily first, but would potentially remove you from office, then it will go through all that whole thing that we talked about a minute ago. Slash a potential conversation with David. Not that that conversation has to happen, but it's an option for a person to have that. The other thing is if through the grapevine, the person who appointed the officer, so it is just impeachment. Yeah. None of us essentially can be removed unless through impeachment. So it will be up to whoever is initiating that impeachment to determine whether or not that officer merits the impeachment hearing.
So it's the administration that is proposing the impeachment to SGA and
No.
Oh, okay.
It's just, okay, so there's two separate bubbles.
Okay.
SGA bubble, big bubble. There is administration bubble. It's a bubble, it's too big. So say stuff just happens, like between you and administration, you're violating the code of conduct, however way, shape, or form, it happens. The only way that we would know about it is through the grapevine. If undergraduate students learn about it and then have the petition process begin, or our SGA advisor finds a judicial sanction on you if that code of conduct violation merits a judicial sanction.
So it's all just really ambiguous.
It's all really,
It's really by situation.
yeah.
Very situation.
Because like even if you were, say you did do something towards administration that they didn't necessarily deem like, oh, this person should be removed from the SGA, but the rest of the SGA is like, this is not a good look, and like we need to do something about it, then like that could still initiate impeachment from us if we all felt the same way. But impeachments are tough.
So how exactly do the undergraduate population go about like impeachment of SGA like officers?
So, I encourage everyone to read the guiding documents. But it says right there that impeachment may be initiated by either 2/3 of a legislative body or by at least 5% of all 5% of all undergraduate students to sign a petition that officers should be removed.
Anybody else have questions in general?
Yeah, Jorge, I thought you were saying earlier that instead of hearing, it's going to be trial.
Yes. Is there a part I missed?
This says crossed out trial.
Yeah.
Trial for hearing. It currently says trial.
We don't want to do trial. Right?
We don't want to do trial because of the legal implication that may bring. When you put the word trial in someone's mind, like, oh, lawyers and a whole jury and judge with a robe. While in most educational capacities, especially in higher ed, we do hearings
Okay.
across in various capacities.
I think I just read what that was said off.
Well, that's kind of like mixed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
These things happen.
Okay. Well, that takes care of it.
So are we okay with that question?
About the causal harm being removed.
I'm just looking for perspective. In the last 15 years, there's been one impeachment that did not result in removal of the officer. So these clauses are important, but fortunately for a lot of its history, SGA has shown restraint about taking out officers just because they don't like something we did.
All right, are we good to move on?
Cool. In the following text, trial to become hearing. Trial to become hearing. Trial to then again become hearing. And then adding 5 written out was really important to legal counsel to have.
Yes.
So we added it. And then if we go down, is the incorporation, or at least the idea that the mention of a fall semester election to be obsolete because it's mentioned nowhere else, and that this will be done in whichever election comes soon, regardless, either it's a special election or the regular election that happens in April. And assuming people were okay, yeah. Oh, he's gonna reply. Did you have a thing?
I think we're doing an article, so.
Are we coming up to it or are we past it?
Pass.
We can go back to it. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Which
so
one?
Real quick with Article 4 judicial branches 4.2.2 the convener. I was just confused because I couldn't find it on the Constitution. I see our 4.2.2 being judicial appeal for all decisions of the electoral board are final, not subject to appeal. So I can't find a mention of
4 point. What version of the Constitution are you looking at?
Yeah, we did say that they were like not
Yeah,
You look at? Did you Google SGA Con? You Google SGA
Oh,
Constitution?
I was like, doesn't say that.
I clicked on like 5 different
This is the one in
constitutions.
the drive right now.
I couldn't find
The one in the drive is incorrect.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we should fix that.
Yeah, because you can see it's 5515, 5516.
Because there's other guiding documents.
The one on the website is the official version.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
And technically, the one on the website the bylaws are technically on.
They actually are outdated, yes.
Yeah.
There are some changes that Craig never incorporated.
There you go, Brandon. It's a fault in the drive.
Okay. So, answer question? Alright. Moving to the last part was the part that was brought up by Dr. Hoffman about the right against discrimination being labeled elsewhere. Just including the same non-discriminatory clause that is university-wide. Do not do, as you should. Don't do. Okay. Any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, songs, auditions, things?
Songs and auditions. Sure, why not?
That's called elections. Anything else? So, so are we okay with moving forward? Question mark.
Yes. Does everybody feel better? Why can't this say less than 21 days from the submission of the petition, not petition submission?
Yes, actually, that's more sound. I like that. Because there's.
Can we fix that?
Yes.
Well, like Google tried to correct it, and now I'm like, it doesn't sound right. Actually, they're correct. So to take place less than 21 days from the submission of the petition, not the petition submission.
I mean, it doesn't really matter,
It's
but.
very small. What day?
It's accurate either way.
Yeah.
But it
How about we just
sounds
leave it?
fun.
I'll make my
I would leave it. But yeah, I know, I
I'm on my
understand.
side at first.
No, I understand. No, I understand.
No,
I
it's
understand
fine.
both sides.
That's fine.
Start looking too closely at the Constitution.
Look, damn it.
It melts
It
your
has the
head.
correct
It melts
definition
everything.
for
It's
submission,
awful.
Okay, something's incorrect about this sentence.
So much about this.
All right, are we going to move on, or I don't want to vote tonight? Does everybody feel comfortable voting? Then sure.
Oh, I was just gonna say, can I make a motion? Motion to vote on joint legislation 15, 17, 18.
Second.
Oh, wait, hold on. I need the motion.
Move to approve joint legislation 15, 17, 18.
Sorry.
There you go. It's a roll call vote.
You got that. All right. Number 7, there's 4.
It's a roll call vote.
Oh, I don't know.
I can do
I'm
it.
brand new to this.
I can do it. So when you call your name, say yes, yay or nay. Really easy,
You
right?
gotta say yay or nay?
Yes.
actually?
Yes. You call your name, say yay or nay.
What heard him?
I'll go this way. Anisha.
Yay.
Harada. Jordan.
Yay.
Mox.
Yeah.
Brandon.
Yay.
There you go. We record all that. We record all
Oh,
that.
that was fine.
Lily.
No, it's
Sorry.
fine. No, it's
Sorry.
What?
So yes,
Huh?
What was
Is
that?
anyone absent?
Justin.
Justin.
Yeah. Okay. You have to mark Justin's absent. Yeah.
So is it just the numbers or is it?
No, you have to quote each name and yay or nay. Yes.
And you need to put Justin as
Yes.
not
Absent. Yes. Sorry.
Sorry, what is that?
Okay, very clear.
Hold on. There are 3 and whereas. Look at this.
I didn't write this legislation, okay?
I'm scared.
No.
Look
I
at
don't
David.
know.
I'm not concerned.
I stayed.
There are 3 and royal.
And whereas. Okay,
So,
good. Thank God. Miles, are you good? All right.
yay.
So Carly, fuck you all.
Here, Carly.
Don't mess it up.
I'm mentally recording what y'all have been saying, and I'll take you guys' word. I'll be like, ooh, they better really. I'm so sleep. That's on
There
there.
you go.
I feel
Okay.
like he's
We
talking
need to move
about
on, please. Okay, so
Test someone.
I want us to have a quick conversation about where this year is going and what we want to do for the rest of the year. As you guys know, SFRD is going to the budget this Friday. We're going to go over the budget in a little bit. But as of right now, I want to bring up the question of, like, do you guys still want to do outreach? Do you guys want to, like, how are we feeling? Where do you guys want the Senate to go in the next month?
I think we're continuing.
Okay.
I'm also down for continuing outreach.
Okay. Anybody against continuing outreach? Solid stuff. Mary?
Is this like just a very general like where you want the Senate to go, or?
Wait, you can see your face.
Thank you. Thank you. My eyes feel so much better. Go ahead, turn it up. I know. All right, Mary, I'm sorry to cut you off.
That's okay. Is this just a general question about like where you want the SGA to go, or is it like actual like
where do you want the Senate to go?
Oh, I'm in the Senate, yeah.
Yeah, what things you want us to do in the next month before terms are done?
Oh, so like very concrete, like
not concrete,
oh,
just kind of like where do we all want to go together? I'm hearing outreach.
I mean, I was hoping we could like do a little like focusing on transition to like the next Senate, but yeah.
But that's not a lot until after the election.
Yeah.
After the election, we'll drill down on that. But right now, we still have to focus on being here, not there necessarily. Jordan.
So how much time is from the election, the end of the election to the
2 weeks?
2 weeks? Okay.
Yeah, about 2 weeks. Maybe 2 weeks.
2.5.
Yeah, like give or take.
Yeah.
Do you guys want guests? Like, do we want guest speakers to come in? Yeah, nay. Can we just do those? Guest speakers.
For the
Huh?
For the reasons?
Well, we don't call them newbies. Everybody.
For
No, for the rest of the Senate.
Wait, what's the
Alright.
guest speakers like?
So like guest speakers coming in from like technology or athletics, or we go to just like people really just like talking to campus partners about things that are happening and concerns. Josh, you have something to say?
Yeah, you could, like I've been telling the group leader core on Fridays. We could, like, you can use your time. It doesn't have to be something that like current events. Like if you have a project that you're working on and you want to invite like an administrator to come talk about it, like you can invite them to a meeting. It's generally after business hours. Then you may be able to get someone like at the beginning of the meeting, so it like helps, especially like keeping regular. Yeah, exactly. So if you have any projects,
I want to hear from those of you that aren't solo guest speakers. Why, if you're willing to share. Jordan.
I was just concerned about the budget because like I feel like if there's guest speaker and a budget at like the same time, that'd just be a little too much for me.
It'd be after budget. The
Then,
budget's basically done.
then you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're about to be done with the budget.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we're bringing guest speakers, because like we have to consider that we're going to be leaving in not all of us, but that our terms end in 2 weeks, and so I want it to be something that we either bring in someone that we've talked to before to continue the conversation, or we can have some sort of direction and it's not just a presentation that we sit through. So I think I'm okay with it as long as we're being intentional with who we bring in.
All right.
I feel like this is probably like an initiative talk, but I was kind of interested to see if anyone had like an initiative like that they think they could finish by the end of the year that like this could all just kind of like contribute to like help see that through.
So, raise your hand if you're actively working on an initiative currently. So that's like half of us. I'm also, but mine is like,
You just like private.
because of confidentiality stuff, yeah. Okay, yeah. I think that's a good idea. I think we'll need a brainstorming session of like who needs that. But also, another idea that we could go off of is, I know Manisha's graduating, she has some good initiatives too. So we could also have the conversation of like where those need to go and what we need to do as a set to make sure they don't die. Josh?
I'd also like to. I have an initiative bank,
Oh, God.
like of.
That's been brewing for 4 years.
No, not. It's not. To my understanding, it's not as robust as Craig's was. But so like.
You didn't leave it there?
No, did not. And I'm upset. He may have left it with David. I want to see that bank someday. Huh?
Wow, to explore the vast treasure trove of things you left.
Yeah.
Other than all
So like, if anyone's looking for something, like, I have a lot of things.
I have a lot of thoughts as well.
Exactly. Like, if you, there is enough work to go around, y'all. Like,
remember, initiatives don't have to be something completely complex, and you don't even have to be like fixing an issue, like building relationships with people to increase receptiveness from students is also initiative and talking to people about things. And remember, initiatives don't have to be like, you don't have to recreate the wheel.
It can be very simple.
Talk to people about the rack. Get the rack hours open. Especially if they're changing them.
Campus accessibility. Hate how the buttons are, we can organize and walk.
A lot of people would suicide.
You said it, not me.
Alright. Okay, so I'm gonna take those ideas and we can wrap it up for now. Does anybody have any last thoughts? We can brainstorm it up. Well, actually, okay. So we're bringing guest speakers on us now. Who do you guys want to hear from?
Over here.
About Okamoka? Okay.
I'll talk to you. If I may,
Yeah,
I'm talking about that. Yeah, cool.
I'm just gonna write it down.
Krishna, who's the student lead of the project from the entrepreneurship class. You saw her in the fall.
Is she graduated?
No, she's not. At least not to my knowledge. But she emailed me 2 weeks ago asking like if she could meet with me. So instead of meeting with me, I'll have her meet with everyone. Absolutely. And again, like I said last week, if you're interested in being like the SGA rep for Okamoka, I got you. I got you. We can take more than one. Let me know.
Okamoka. All right. Okay. What's up?
In terms of speakers and outreach events and things like that, I'd be really interested in having an opportunity for Bobby Foy to be open and available for conversations with the general student body. Who's the director of Title IX?
She's the Title IX coordinator for that.
I think it's really important for students to build a relationship with the Title IX office, and I feel like there's a lot of grievances that people would benefit from hearing directly from Bobby.
I disagree. Respectfully. And I don't disagree with the sentiment. I think that an open forum for students to come talk about that and the resources that they have available to them is very important. But I don't know if it's solely going to be Bobby Wood. Also understanding that we had the conversation before that it is a lot of people. And there's other people on campus that provide more like support than Telegram does because they're very logistical process-wise. So I think that's a good idea if we need to find other campus partners that provide the support for Telegram like processes and then do that. I have Josh Jordan.
I'm just trying to get into why specifically Bobby Foy. Is it because, like, because there's a lot of different things you can do here. Is it to provide resources to survivors of sexual assault, or is it to build relationships with an office that students typically hate?
Or is it just with a new grief?
Oh, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
grievances out.
Yeah, it's like there are a lot of different things. So why specifically Bobby Foy?
My interest is to build relationships.
I think we should talk about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Jordan?
Do people from like residential life usually come to Senate meetings? Have they come? Or
I am Res Life. Hello. No, so what would be your interest in them coming?
It's not an interest. I was just thinking, like, thinking about people who come. Who?
Lauren Mariella, she's the
Assistant Director for Residency.
contact. There we go.
Okay.
I know she's the 8 years.
No interest. I'm just thinking about people like that have come.
Okay.
And like, I don't think, has UHS come? University Health Services?
I think so. Was
Not this year, but
I think
in the
last
past, yes.
Okay.
It might be an interesting conversation, and I don't know if this conversation would actually be happening now or it has to wait, but to see what their plans are when they move into the rack space in terms of expanding services.
Is that 100% happening?
The UHS is 100% moving to the rack. And counseling services is also 100% moving to the rack.
I'm glad.
We can talk. We can schedule a meeting with Dr. Young, if you like, about that.
It's fine.
But
Mental health.
it'd be cool to have a conversation with them about like, what's going to happen when they're moving onwards. What their thoughts are.
Agreed.
We can reach out and see if they even know.
Oh, they know that they're moving. Yeah.
Right, but do they know what they're doing exactly is what I'm saying. I want
Don't know
to
that.
full gauge that. Mary, you have your hand up.
Yeah, to build off of Jordan's point and
Sure.
Nidhi's point, basically like building relationships with these like with these, for example, like RSA is pretty like fundamental in terms of like interacting with the student body. So like we talked about us getting representation from the student body within these meetings, right? Like earlier, so I think definitely inviting people from RSA would be elemental.
Yeah. Young is here sometimes.
Yeah.
Young is a part of RSA. She's here sometimes, but we could definitely invite the entire board to so.
And also to jump on with Brandon's point, and like the title, like 9 office, I think we should still invite I guess administration from Title IX office, not necessarily like to create an open forum, but like I think we're like the first step in creating that relationship. So if they have a relationship with us, we can in turn develop something between, like, I guess mediate the relationship between the student body and Title IX office. So
Yeah.
still factoring in their reputation here.
So, from my experience, so a little bit of background. I'm a senator who has gone to Bobby Boy and Title IX before and had meetings with them. And I'm going to say this and take what you will from it, but I think that's a bigger initiative than just a one-time meeting, to be honest with you, to get through with them. And it's a good thing, but I mean, I think we need like a working group to be completely honest with you.
You gotta start somewhere, really.
Yeah. Can we start with inviting people?
Yeah, continue it somehow.
Yeah, we need a bigger group, not just one person.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I think that'd be an interesting thing both for the senators that come in, or also just, if you know, want to work on it outside of it too. It'd be really good. We should all talk offline about that interest in it. All right, so I'm hearing these few places. I think we definitely need to hear from Joe on transit. Because that's something we heard from him a lot last year and this, like, beginning of this year. We haven't heard from him in a while. Also interested on the new transit lines and if we're still trying to get one to Catonsville. I mean, to Columbia, because I haven't heard anything about that in a long time.
If I may, Chuck from Parking Services, the new director of Parking Services.
Yep.
I forwarded you all an email about the advisory group. We could also, people seem to react oddly to the parking thing that Lily announced last week. So like,
But they sent out an announcement.
they did. Yes, they did send an announcement. It wasn't proprietary information. So like,
No, I just want to make sure.
yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested in like sharing more information about that to the student body, I mean the email was pretty substantial, but asking questions, things like
They're
that.
like pretty willing to come out. Like
Exactly.
Paul Dillon has come out to like 2 of my programs for wrestling before 8 o'clock. So I think they're okay with coming back.
Yeah. Paul Dillon is the deputy chief of police for those that don't know.
Jordan, did you ever hear that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I say no.
Okay. All right.
So like speaking to like the dispersing like information, like have we like and like moving on, like how we're planning to move forward in the Senate or and I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I don't know what exactly you said, but yeah, how are we yeah. Do you have any new ideas about like how we're going to disperse information?
I thought about a newsletter. If Brandon has an idea, if you want to share it. If you don't want to share it, that's okay too.
I think we've had conversations before, I feel like, about like different ways that students access information, and like videos on Facebook might be an idea. Like we talked about like doing like boxy things.
I'm excited.
Okay, well, I was going to talk to you should
I think, I mean, I was thinking about that because I'm taking this Amazon class and doing things about like documentary style audio recording and how you could have like a podcast coupled with maybe bringing people in. You know, this might make sense. You know, like we can be like, oh, every month we'll talk with like some administrative person and be like, send us your questions. We'll ask them. Post it online.
Yeah.
This is good.
I really
What
like
about
that.
like a newsletter that we would send out for our listservs and stuff like that people can look at that highlight stuff. But all of this is hard because it's how do people want to receive their information, which is everybody's different. But Brandon,
She was
why don't
first.
you finish your thought?
Okay. I'm like, personally, I really enjoy like watching those like short, like 5-minute videos or listening to podcasts. But when you mentioned newsletters, I know Resident also sends a newsletter. That is like very difficult to read. Where there's like,
That's just yeah.
If I may, typically newsletters are pretty ineffective across the university. But I think you should just try it. Like, right ahead and try it. I don't know if you've been in a conversation that's been happening over Slack, but Pat brought it up a while ago, like 3 weeks ago. So you should. It's basically the same idea. So you should.
Well, Brandon has to be out of the Slack.
Yeah. Oh, you're not on Slack. I can add
Brandon's
you.
not in the Slack. Anybody else not in the Slack while we're here?
Yeah.
Miriam. All right. Jordan, are you in the Slack?
I'm on it.
You are in the Slack. All right.
Jordan is in it.
Good stuff. Okay. Sweet, Miriam.
Oh, like, so like just jump on the podcast thing. Like, how effective is like the radio, like, and the viewings there? And like, how
Yeah.
easy would it be? Words. How easy would it be for us to, jump on that bus?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That's not a rope I have.
The WNBC has pretty solid listenership, but they're at like specific intervals, and we're about to hit the next one around Quadmania, which is like this weekend. So, but it mostly their listenership really has a big spike within the first 3 weeks of the semester. It is another way to get information out though, and I like the strategy that I have yet to see play out very well in SGA. Summer, winter, and special programs does it very well. Is they hit everything in every angle. So like you see summer, winter, special programs on Google Ads, and then on Facebook, and then you see the books. I'm not to toot my own horn, but like I suggested them revamp their social media stuff when I was a freshman. Just saying. But just saying. Anyway, it's hitting like all the different areas at simultaneously.
At the wall, see what sticks.
Hmm?
I said throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Exactly.
That's been my fun fact. Spaghetti doesn't actually stick to the wall. And it is not a proven tactic to see if
It's made us all
spaghetti is whole nother story. All right. So Brandon, keep us updated on that. That could be a project that
Miriam not.
that could be a project that Jordan, it was you, right? That sent all the effort towards one initiative.
Oh, yeah.
That could be a really good one that all of us try to work on in different angles.
The podcast?
The podcast and the radio show and seeing what's happening in Word Fest.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different, I mean,
Jordan next to the microphone, like with his head over his
like honestly, we could just like all of us that are willing to contribute to that, we could try the different methods. Like somebody can try to design a newsletter, and the other people try to do WMC, and somebody can do videos.
Right.
Talk to Josh. He did some interesting videos with Markia a few times here and there.
You couldn't be consistent with it. It was hard.
You couldn't, but it was fine. So let us know. Actually, okay, sure. Okay. All right. Anything else? All right, I'm gonna move on. I will reach out to those people. I'm really interested in having Joe here first, though, and then we'll talk to them about that.
Yep.
Since Joe's on with the project discussion. Budget. Hi.
budget.
All right.
Ooh. Okay. So,
Any
what?
new thoughts, revelations,
Yes.
frustrations? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Okay, David wanted me to talk to you guys about. Okay, well, David didn't want me to, but he said he'd probably you guys get other conversations. So, where did the SGA shirt go? Why did it disappear from the entire drive? There we go. Alright, so I want to talk to you guys about stipends for next year. Okay, so David and I were talking, and that's something that comes up every year. This is very good.
Yep.
Okay. So, remember how David had the discussion with us last Senate meeting where he was talking about like putting an asterisk and telling SAFRB that they're going to stay this way for next year, but next year they will be heavily reviewed to try and make them more equitable across the board. Does anybody remember that? If not, I can go on, Jeff. Okay, so David has suggested that we discuss that and how we feel about that, since we did voice that we're willing to support SEB for right now. I believe was our general feeling. Anybody disagree? Jordan, you think disagree?
I just didn't remember, honestly.
It was a long conversation.
Yeah.
But that was still the feeling that I got, that we shouldn't cut them just because we're not making enough.
I was gonna say I agree with. I don't know how even negotiable this is, but I agree with like the SUV thing, but at a lesser amount than like $16,000. I don't know if that's even like a thing that's considered. So
I like agree with you in concept, but then I also recognize that it's only like $50 per paycheck, so if we cut it by a few dollars, it's gonna be like $47.
Which makes a big
How
impact
significant is
totally.
that, though?
Sure, but not per person, I guess.
So I was gonna say like instead of like giving them like 16, like 8, and then their checks go up to like 3,500. Stipend go up to 3,500 a year. I don't know if that.
Josh, I was always working with SAFRB, the marks wasn't our budget.
So
Very
what?
messy. Okay.
So what's going to need to happen is that whatever we have to approve SCB's budget. So like you have to be in concert with that, and the numbers have to agree. SAFRB will have feedback this week, and if this process needs to go on past next week, it can, but I highly caution against that. We do have an emergency meeting scheduled for if something goes wrong. There is an emergency meeting scheduled for May 2nd if something goes wrong, just like this. So like, and that's fine. We haven't had to use the emergency meeting that's always scheduled. Well, we did one year, but which is why they're always scheduled every year now. But yeah, if it don't feel. I would say the first thing is don't feel like backed into a corner with this, because like you should review it adequately. So like yeah, SAFRB is Friday, and then vote is supposed to take place next Friday, but if not, it will take place on May 2nd.
So is SAFRB happy with it as long as it's shared?
SAFRB is supportive of the change.
David?
Right? Is the name? That's what Marquia told me at least. I wasn't there.
But the SED change?
Yes.
To catch you up, Miles had said, what if we give them less than $16,000 but still gave them money?
I would say that SED did a very effective presentation. SED did a very effective presentation to SAFRB. SAFRB members did not challenge the premise of their argument. So I wouldn't go too far to say SAFRB supports the change, but it's a very effective presentation.
I saw with Mary and
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we had discussed it. The idea of like decreasing the whole thing stipend by a few, and I think that we should put up a point about like how much of a difference does it really make. So we already discussed it. That's what I was
Where would you like want that other money to be allocated?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, right now we are running over $6,760. So if you cut it by $8,000, it would leave us with $2,000 left over, which we don't have to allocate. But you can put it somewhere else as well.
I don't know. I feel like we kind of want to into a corner if you think about it. Because in some ways, they have presented to SAFRB already, and it has been seen, not favorable necessarily, but they don't have any issues with it, probably unless we do. And we have reason behind that.
I understand.
Plus also they do have reasoning behind it, so I feel like SG is kind of in that spot where either we cut it with reason and potentially hurt that relationship, or we support it but also that leaves us in a weird spot talking about being over the budget, but also like what we're doing for kind of what I had brought up at the beginning of like how are we adjusting our own stipends next year? It's just like it's like a hand tie kind of thing.
I understand. I think
Yeah.
I understand and agree with what you just said. It's first, I wouldn't worry with this little bit of money over budget. I would not worry because we will have at least $50,000 next year that will not be spent that we plan to spend, and that is minimum.
Right.
All right, so I wouldn't worry about like going over 6,760. Some people may care about like being technically over budget. I don't think there ever will be a situation where we spend all of the money. Second, because not all the projects go on during the year. So second, I understand, and I've actually for a while now I've been doing some research, aspirational peer, and USM institution of the SGAs that have stipends, what their stipend structure is.
Right.
I'm also going to be. I've been working with Colin to incorporate some research from some schools outside of Maryland and outside of our aspirational peer institutions. So I will develop a report, but it will not be incorporated into this budget. All right. Send it to you.
Yeah.
Or you want to be involved in the report?
Yeah, you remember you asked us this early last meeting, and I said I
Oh,
would join.
I got you on that too. Yes, I got you. Is there anyone else that wanted to be involved in stipend discussions, like report or whatever? Okay, just Mary. Got you.
Okay. Oh. So Dr. Miles' point. I don't know. Honestly.
Let me ask you this, because I'm about to throw a monkey wrench in the house. Right? Remember, I just want to make sure, because I have a meeting with Dr. Young tomorrow about budgeting question. So, all right, so one of the issues that we're having right now is the support of the Institute. Huh?
I knew it was good.
Yeah. All right, so here's what's up.
All right.
Here's what's up. If we get the increase in FY 2020, which will be the 2019-2020 academic year, I have no doubt that we'll be able to support the institute, like with the full amount that is being requested. The issue is that proposal, the Student Fee Advisory Board has recommended that we do not increase that the administration does not increase our fee, and without numbers like an over enrollment of students, we don't have the revenue numbers to support it 2 years from now. So I'm going to have a conversation with Dr. Young tomorrow about that. If there is a possibility, not this year but next year, to change the fee, will people be supportive of supporting the Institute for FY19? Does that make sense?
Are you asking the Senate?
Yeah, so I'm asking for your opinion.
Yes.
Is there anyone that wouldn't want to?
It's okay if you would. We just want to hear why. That we're just listening.
Yep. So that way I can go saying I have the support of the Senate.
David won't burn you at the stake.
Exactly.
Promise.
Great. Hearing none. That was an easy issue. Great.
Wait, you say it again?
We talked a lot about it.
All right. So yes, you're right. Just to recap. Fiscal year 20, the 2019-2020 academic year, the student fee, well, I can actually cover a little bit more basic than that. So all the student fees are subject to review by university system policy. All the mandatory fees that every student has to pay. So each of the mandatory fees is reviewed by the board, and they hear all the proposals and like why do people want to increase the fee and what the reasoning is behind it and all that. So that's one thing. So because of our budgeting timelines, we don't know if we're going to get the fee increase until, like, the Board of Regents hasn't approved the next year's fee increases, but they've already approved ours because we proposed it last year. So we're in this 2-year limbo We have to propose a fee increase 2 years in advance instead of one like every other fee in the university. It is very odd. And it really limits us because that means I'm setting the rules for not next year's administration, but for 2 year administration now, and it's kind of very iffy. So because of that, it's smart for SGA to request every year to increase the fee from now on because the fee's been at $98 for the last 5 years. I've only paid $98 for the student activity fee. So, and because of that, like the cost of things still grow. The finance board product has grown 3 times since then. But we've always kept it at $98, especially because of our large reserves. So now we're in the issue of,
So we've used up a good bit of our reserves.
Yes. Yeah, and a lot of it will be going back. It was just a test of me. We saw things.
We needed to.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So now we're in the odd issue of the board has recommended the fee not be increased, and SGA, because SFAP was an SGA initiative long ago, we usually listen to that recommendation. So now the issue is that if we don't get that extra revenue, we cannot support the institute. Or in addition to some of the things that in my email, I wrote all this down in email, but in addition to some of the things that we hear from student organizations, like they want more t-shirt merchandise funds or marketing funds or different resources that we provide or prints at the copier, that all costs like more money. So we can't give more services without taking in more money. So that is the long thing.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So then Josh's question was, if everything was to work out in FY or
In FY20,
what do we want to support this?
yes, we want to support these. Because it's not fiscally responsible to support it next year and then cut it out the following year because we don't have extra revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you would ask?
That's all I wanted to ask.
Right.
Are we cool with the budget? Oh, sorry.
For clarification,
Sure.
it's not clear, but the institute is like school.
No,
It's brainchild.
David's brainchild. The institute, not the institution. The institute for democracy. Institute. Miles.
That's okay.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
I would rather you ask than think.
Please, yes. Just making sure that everyone understands.
But do you remember what?
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember that one.
If he needs to elaborate, I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
He loves it. All right, so I want to do a pulse check. I feel like people are starting to tap out a little bit. Do we want to take like a 7-minute break?
Yes.
Go get food, drink, bathroom. All right, let's go do that. You guys have been checked in. No.
All right. You doing to talk about election board stuff?
I need to talk to them about it before we ask them.
I'm actually a bunch of people here at
We're submitting this budget.
including Kevin, Nancy, who's the interim
With the
vice
understanding that
president at the time,
the budget we proposed
Lehar,
for last
when she
year
was not here yet, Jory here.
I think
Lindsay,
that's very good.
We'll stay talking.
But I have to talk to them.
I'm very excited.
You want to put that? You should put that in the
Yo,
legislation.
send that to me.
Oh, page 4.
I mean, like I haven't written the legislation. Yeah, I haven't written it yet. So
That's what David is saying, at least like putting it like maybe subject to.
that would like bind the next Senate to actually discuss. Senate finance.
No, this looks fine. David's on there a lot.
I have no doubt that it will happen though, because Colin wants to change it up a lot.
Right,
So.
but it needs to be severely.
I just love the policy that gives people the ability to stop people. Like, you can know what someone had for dinner 4 years ago.
I agree.
And you can go in with the full knowledge of, I know you had green beans.
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, we need to get my water bottle. I also have to pee.
Are you excited for our SGA meeting tomorrow? Are you a touch person? Sorry, I was texting.
Throw it back to when your hand on my shoulder.
Like a
after
very
you go.
non-touch person.
Can you?
No, it's not bad. I just get like really I'm really ticklish.
Okay, yeah, Chris is good. So, it's gonna be a great 2-hour meeting. Finally gonna tell you my life story. I've probably been like the last 45 minutes of the 2-hour meeting that we talked about.
I've gasped too much.
Yes, I was on it.
No.
All right.
We'll
You
be
lost
back.
me at every.
Okay. We're good. I just put us in executive session.
Yeah, never mind, I can't go anywhere.
You may talk freely. Just put us in executive
I don't know
session.
how to make flex.
I'm sorry. Oh wait, you have $50 of rewards now.
It's coming, it's not there.
It's not there yet, right?
Yeah, it's sometime this week. She had to submit the list today.
Oh, I tried to use it today. And then I think, like, first of all, Lydia at Chick-fil-A didn't even know what it was.
Rewards?
She just took from my retriever hours, so I was like, okay.
Dang. I'm gonna use my meal before. Do you want anything to eat? Come on.
That's so sweet.
Come on.
Sugar Papa Mask.
What if I just call you Doc Hoff from now on?
Interesting.
Doc Hoff. Kind of sounds like Doc Collar comedy. Why is the body in executive session? We're not in executive session. We're on break. That's gonna look really bad.
I want to thank you for the nomination. I also read it, and you wrote exactly what I wrote in my essay. Like, it was very similar.
I had adapted it from others I wrote for the other stuff.
Same. So, worked out that way.
So you're transferring here this summer, right?
This fall.
So you're going through orientation and stuff?
Yes. That's why I was here this week. So.
Right. Okay. Well, just let me know which orientation day you're coming. I will be there regardless. I'll be fine working. So if you have any questions, let me know.
All right, thank you.
What are your summer plans for you? Your summer plans?
Orientation.
Oh, that's fun.
And because I will no longer have SGA. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. You can show me a
Travel.
call. Yeah, money. I'm not quite sure. My financial aid can cover water, so I'm like gonna save up a bit just in case. But I am trying to plan like a cross country road trip so that I can escape.
I really wanted to, but the timing is not working out.
Yeah, I probably decided to like take summer classes. Whatever. How dare you be in an accelerated program. Yeah, that's my current plan for the summer. And also look at
Okay, Wendell. Yeah.
That's a lot. Are you from Crompton?
I'm from Covington. Why? Which one Covington?
I live across the street from Brooklyn.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
David, do you know Nancy's memory?
I didn't used to. I moved there like. Oh, man.
See, this is my Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I used to. I lived in Crompton. I was supposed to live around though, and then got instant in the South River, which was like. That was an experience. Oh my god, that did not prepare me for college.
Sounds like an experience. That's a lucky thing.
Have you seen something before?
No, I just know people that go to stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I know what people that go to.
It's so gross.
That's a good experience.
I hate it. I love it, but I hate it at the same time.
Yeah, that's good.
It's like, you can like kind of conform to it after 4 years, but like, it's still like not.
Yeah. Like when I was at a rental, they kind of push it kind of in.
I did karaoke this weekend.
Yeah.
And by karaoke,
Like I wish it was
I mean,
more because like
I put up
half my
like,
friends went to Rondo,
Oh.
and then the other half went to South River, but
What?
it was like they weren't my friends or
That's the way to do it.
Oh.
So then I
Well,
was
my
like,
sister-
well now I got it in friends with you for the next 4
yeah, like
years.
actually,
Yeah.
because my
And
parents were out of
they,
town
like,
doing
they
college
just,
with my brother.
keyed you up with 5 people for like 4 years,
He's up and coming,
and then
I
they like
wanted to
slowly
come
like
here,
starts
but
like
he doesn't listen to me.
Is there
having less people, and if your circles get smaller, by the time you like get to your junior year when you start having classes with normal people, you don't want to interact with them. What have they done?
Yeah.
Hoity-toity.
You go to Centennial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard.
It's like
I don't hear good things about STEM. I'm just here to be okay.
It's
It's like
close by.
I
Keep
got
going
it.
straight for a while.
I should not have
You live near.
I literally was like
No,
the
I
last
live in
person to get on the
High
lottery.
Right.
It's a,
Because
it's,
somebody
Philadelphia
kicked me
City.
out of it.
it's fine.
It's
Close. Close.
like I can't
Complete
even.
other direction.
But yeah, like it was just me and my sister this past weekend, or like the weekend before, and she decided, she was like, I'm going to the gym. I was like, okay, cool. And she texted me, she was like, never mind, my friend and I are getting dinner together. I was like, oh, that's $967. That's cool too.
That was
So I bought a
on
bottle
that
of
week.
wine,
The
and I
event services cost.
set my basement,
$1,507.
turned the bottle $1, not to be as lyrics
According to
karaoke,
before.
and it was
So-
phenomenal.
I've been in contact with them for like the past week, and they were like,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
instead of just like us getting the paperwork through and like giving them like already allocated, like they enjoy it. Well, they wanted like the full amount that they're doing, so we have to go back and reallocate them. Like, right, and like we would go back and consider and give them.
Actually, if you ever go to Philadelphia,
as
there's
a
a place
so
called
moving to reconsider it tomorrow.
And it's
karaoke near does it bar.
I'm so excited.
Philadelphia.
Same.
If you ever go,
Are you moved to
Yeah.
it?
and they have like a general Victoria.
Okay.
I've never heard it before.
And then
I remember that being an issue.
Ew.
I remember last year I went to late night and I had a chicken tender and like I opened it. First of all,
We've done that
they were
quite a few
balls,
times.
and I was like,
They were what?
balls? Like they were
Good thing
like
that
skewered
it doesn't really feel like a good.
And I was like, this already is
Just
not
means that I
good.
think.
But I was like, I'm hungry. And then I opened it up and it was like raw and I was like, well, I'm just not gonna get I'm not eating tonight.
That's not
And then I got
going.
cheeseburgers. And then now I've just completely cut late out of my diet.
It's
And,
fine. Like,
I've been
how
sick
many
way too many
times
times
on
this semester.
Oh, yeah.
So,
So, I think this is like the place I probably feel like I'm gonna get sick at here is Chick-fil-A because like it's literally like
Literally
not
not
even a
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. It's not a Chick-fil-A.
like,
It's like another world Chick-fil-A. Like this is the weirdest shit I've ever been to. I've never thought of shit like Chick-fil-A.
you go to like, you feel like because eating Chick-fil-A here will make you not want to eat Chick-fil-A anymore.
Yes.
If you go to a Chick-fil-A somewhere else, it's actual food. Like this Chick-fil-A is somehow just not on par with every other.
Yes.
But like I think Starbucks is fine, which is weird.
I don't know what all this means.
I don't eat fish, so.
I don't know what that is.
No, I bought chips.
Okay.
I'll split
Yeah.
it.
You want to open them? I'll just chuck them right. I feel like. Oh, I was really bad. Oh, crap. Okay.
I think you
Hi. All right. Let's wrap this up. Josh is getting pasta. So this is actually. But. What?
Nothing.
Oh.
That's just,
Oh.
yeah.
Well, bring up the Charlotte.
But,
So as I brought up earlier, David and I were discussing stipends, and David said that it could be a good idea for us to include an asterisk saying that this is how the stipends are this year and this is what we're presenting, but with the understanding that next year it will be under review. Do you want to give more background?
Just that it seems like every year SGA gets into this position where people realize at the point the budget has to be adopted, it would have been nice to invest some time in doing the kind of study of stipends that would allow you to justify a change that's needed. So Josh mentioned the process that he and Colin are working on. Aside from adopting the numbers in the budget, what you're adopting is the spreadsheet, so you're adopting the contents of this document. And so you can make notes here that next year's SGA, at the point that they get back to adopting the budget, when during the time that they're using the budget, will see. And it's also a way of communicating to SAFRB this is something they intend to do. So to me, that would take there's a tab here that says notes and instructions. That would be one place that you could include that kind of information.
Right. But, so then we also have the conversation about and that, well, never mind. I already said that comment. So how do we feel about that? Should it just be legislative branch, or should it be both executive and legislative?
I feel like if it comes from both, it's more binding, or at least it's more like things that you worked upon, and the entire SGA thought like this was an important thing to consider.
I also think that if it's both, it doesn't necessarily have to increase, but that's at the discretion of the next SGA to decide.
Mm-hmm.
What else are you missing? Okay, so yes. Anybody have any comments that they want to say against it?
So I have two clarifications.
Sure.
So we're putting this to SAFRB, you can see the entire document. So you can see the proposals for like 2020, and if that fee is approved and everything like that. My second question was about your comment of switching both executive and legislative branch stipends. Are the executive, like the top 4 people, are any of them being paid above minimum wage?
Not technically, but if you break it down, I don't think so. Right. But we don't try to equate it that way.
Or the word wage doesn't apply?
But I guess, but that puts us in a really weird situation though, because SCB defends their stipend increase by saying that it is more close to minimum wage.
They should.
My concern is that we're shifting funds away from the executive branch to go into the legislative branch. That I like Markia's example resonating with me that we want to bring each other up instead of like keeping us all down. That's something that I'm thinking about.
Okay. I guess my thought was that we wouldn't be reallocating money from the executive branch, but it would be like, for example, with the Senate Speaker, it would be closer to, for example, like the treasurer and with the like secretaries or the senators, closer. Like, would it be more equitable to the executive branch? But I wouldn't reallocate money for a second.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think we just have 2 different wavelengths.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is anybody, Mary, did you read it? Okay. Is anybody opposed to putting an asterisk that will review all stipends?
This is for this budget.
Huh?
This is for this budget.
So we're proposing what's proposed, like what Josh has already said, or like if it does that. But it's an asterisk saying that the following year, the stipend will be in review.
But
Cool. So Dave, how do I do this? What's the best way to do it? Should I highlight things? That'll mess with Josh's thing.
Where'd you go?
He's getting crossed now. He'll do best.
Maybe what you can do is in this instruction tab here, refer to the line.
Okay, I can just do it. Can I say B65 to B80? And B A1?
That's fine.
Excel is not my friend for anybody that doesn't know this.
Is there a reason we can't just make comments / notes on the line itself?
Like where?
On the, either the cell,
You do it in the cell, it'll mess with the formulas.
no. Like if you right click and make a comment.
So it'll look like,
Yeah.
So I was going to go 2, but it'll highlight the whole thing, right?
So yeah. You can just make it out like B65 would be 1 million.
Okay, so now is the fun stuff. How do we properly articulate this essay?
I mean, I think that's exactly what you said before. The stipend amount should be reconsidered following the research.
David, didn't you say to use language like maybe reconsidered or maybe increased or something? Because we can't really say it will be like 100%.
I think we can say SGA intends to review all stipends
Oh.
for fiscal year 20. FY 20.
Sorry.
After conducting research on stipends for similar positions at other institutions.
Do I need to include the lines? Can I just put it in parentheses after all stipends? That turned out really ugly, but is that okay?
There's a open paren, have a space for
Oh my gosh. Look what you did.
before it, not after it.
Perfect. I rescind my comment. Alright, is that okay, guys? Anybody else want? Cool. I didn't put it in. Okay, so. And that'll be enough for them? Doesn't really, it just says little tab. Or whatever we're presenting, it should we just tell them?
It seems like it comes up in such a subtle way, like you can easily put past the sheet of this that's there.
Oh.
To all of them?
I mean, would it be appropriate to put it in the legislation? Like you pass it with a note in the Senate?
Put it in the legislation, but my suggestion was to put something in the notes and instructions tab, because you'll want to mention this to SAFRB on Friday.
Yes, I will definitely be mentioning it to them on Friday. I'll probably also send like the report that I'm making to them. So yeah. That way, Well, at least we just need to make sure. I know there are senators to be elected in the room, so it's on you. It's on you to make sure that this is actually talked about early, like in
Like first
September.
semester early.
Exactly, like in September. Yes.
All right. Josh.
Okay, so yeah. Let me think. It's in the legislation thing. All right, so a few weeks. So if anyone recalls, like the election board confirmations, I know that was like way back. But one of the agreements that was made by the nominating committee. I know we've had some turnover in the nominating committee, but one of the agreements that was made in the nominating committee was, as a condition for Sophia and the other individuals to come on, was that we would change the stipends from what they are now to what they, so to reflect a little bit of what they used to be. Because these lines have seen some cuts for some time, and we had a discussion like a while back about raising stipends. So again, this is just a condition of them coming on, and because we have a larger board than we usually do, there are 8 election board members, not including Sophia, not if I'm counting correctly. Yes. Yeah, so there are 9 total, but like 8 members of the board, right? So it's, yeah. So what is being proposed is to change from the 878 to the 1100, and then turn from the 1500 to 2200, and that would make each individual stipend $275, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Thank you for checking my math. So yeah, this was agreed upon a while. We discussed it a while ago. There are new people in the room, so like if there's further discussion, great. If not, can we vote on it? Because that's going to SFOB as well. So.
I didn't think that we came to a complete conclusion on whether or not
Yeah, we
were
didn't.
doing it.
Yeah, we did not. I mean, I thought more people were for it than against it, but we can.
I'm
Yeah.
for going back to 1,000 for that one.
Hmm?
1,100. Roberta?
Can you explain the reasoning behind $100 for FY19?
Oh, well, okay. So there's a couple reasons behind that. Most of the reasoning behind the 1100 was because of Sophia's prior experience. That's very situational. We could leave it at 1100 if you want, or we can just leave both. The agreed upon number with Sophia was 1100, but that can change in FY19. So, yep.
My only reasoning concern behind that is that if we're making and we're reaching back into the realm of precedence, and if we're doing this for one person, my fear is that we're going to do this for everyone else.
Sure.
Who may come forward, who
Yeah.
has some election board experience.
Agreed.
I want to say someone who was on the election board in general should get a stipend increase simply because they were on the election board and now they're chair.
Yeah. Well, she's been chaired before.
I know,
yeah.
And if I'm saying in the future, it could lead to a reasoning
It
of
could.
that.
Yes, you're correct.
And I'm not against the increase.
Mhm.
I'm for the increase. Sophia has a good year. Looking for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I would like to see it consistent between the 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Have another thing. No. Fine. Yeah, it's fine. Good job.
I think, was it at 1,000?
No, it was 1,000 a while ago.
Okay.
Maybe
It wasn't last year.
it wasn't last year. Maybe it was probably FY16. Yeah.
Okay. I am for it going to 1,000, but not 1,100. I don't think.
Okay.
I think for similar reasoning that I don't want to increase it based on us having 2 really good years in Sophia.
Yes.
I think by increasing it, it could. Okay, I don't want to say no, I don't want to say that, but
I mean, other positions have also seen an increase.
I think until there's a solid expectation and oh my god, until we are holding each election board chair to the same things that we've appreciated that Sophia has done, such as having people at the beginning of the year and starting recruitment early.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to up it too much. I do agree that it was a lot of work, and I would be fine with it being at 1,000. But until there's like a definite culture change within SGA,
Well,
I'm hesitant to change it to 1,100.
I understand what you're saying,
Because
but
we
we
have Sophia.
but we do have the expectation that the election board chair didn't work out this year, but we do have the expectation that the election board chair will be confirmed before the end of the fall.
Right, right, but that's also contingent on us finding an election board chair.
Agreed. Yes.
So that's what I'm saying is you're leaving.
Yes.
So also understanding that putting SGA
So, I hear a lot about like Sophia and like Sophia's standards, but like, is Sophia like the, like I guess like the one directing that, like, is her success what is directing this stipend increase or stipend decrease? Like,
So
what exactly is that a no?
yes and no.
Okay.
First, this position, it's always tough for the Senate and the Finance Board to like gauge, even the president, to gauge the work of the election board because everyone in the legislative and executive branches are entirely removed from the election. So it's hard to gauge exactly how much work it takes to plan and execute and like follow up on complaints and all those different things. So it's a little bit of both. It's rewarding a particular person for a prior experience and willingness to come back and do it after studying abroad. And then it's also because like it's a challenging position and that no one usually wants to do. So yeah.
So like, so just like the like gauging like what, like how much work goes into, is there like no means of like doing that at all?
Well,
I wouldn't say not at all.
It's been very different. So I think a good way to put it is that since the election board normally has a different chair every year, elections are ran differently every year a little bit depending on the person. Therefore, we've had some consistency with Sophia since she's been here for 2 years now, and she's been on the board before. But I think where at least my broader hesitation is that Sophia's also graduating. So also understanding that whoever comes in next could be a returning member that has been on the board before, but not another chair necessarily. But I think also the question that you're asking is like, how can we gauge it? We can, but the thing is that, like I said, since we've only had 2 years of consistency from Sophia, it's hard to like say one solid thing of this is what we need, but also that elections need to improve in certain areas. Like whenever we talked about voter turnout, and that's something that they're dedicated to, but that the workload could increase and or decrease depending on the election year and how it's gone previously also, in my opinion.
I have 2 questions and a comment. So first question is, just for clarification's sake, it was increased this year, we're cutting it next year, and then the year after it's supposed to increase again.
No. Right now it's 878. Those ticks on the right hand are proposed. Yeah, those. Yeah, I couldn't color it differently with the conditional format. I'm sorry.
Oh, so Sophia, as of this election, is going to be Sophia.
Yes, right. As of this current moment, yes.
Then.
Hold on. I'm listening.
listening.
I mean communication.
No, I said I'm listening.
Yes.
Then, like, so are we talking about increasing her stipend for this election right now?
Yes.
Correct. And for the year to come, correct.
I mean, and then cutting it back because it depends on what it's hard to gauge what the election board will look like for next year.
I didn't even see this, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you're saying increase it for this year and then cut it back?
Yeah, so because we don't know what the election board will look like, and it's entirely dependent on who's elected and what people what people's expectations of the election board are, and because the election board can have up from 6 up to unlimited members.
Correct.
It can be anything. So what I'm doing is putting the onus on the next administration, Senate and Finance Board, to properly change those numbers for next year, depending on what is actually deserving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, then I definitely would want to go to 1,000, but no more than that.
Sure.
Because I don't think Sophia's doing it for the money.
Partially.
I think it looks weird paying somebody specifically just for this 1 year and then not.
Sure. That's what I don't. Is that fair per se to say that someone coming into a position is doing it for like, not necessarily doing it for like, if they're agreeing that if they do this position, they're going to get an increase in their stipend, then like, what's stopping someone from being like, if you run for this position, we'll try to increase your stipend? Like, how do you, like? Yeah,
to me it feels very much so like, if you came into the Senate position, you were kicking ass and we were like, Miles deserves more money, then we tried to like increase yours.
Yeah.
That's not how it works because there's a lot of us, but like,
Mm-hmm.
that's how it feels a little bit. Or like if Marquia came in and was bomb and we're like, she deserves 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it feels to me because we're just paying one person, not one position. Like they understand what they're getting into.
And like for the future stuff, I don't think that while her being election board chair twice may or may not like lead to an increase. Like if she was, if it may or may not lead to an increase, I don't think being an election board member and then moving up to a chair would garner the same increase, like in any like case whatsoever. But it's still to be said whether or not like someone who's in the position right now and like where the budget was already finalized and we're going back and increasing it based on an agreement. I don't know how I feel about that.
Was it cut? Or was that before?
It was across the board.
I'm trying to like give them background as to why it was 1,000 and just cut down. Does that make sense?
Okay, so
that way they can have some background on why.
So why it was cut down? People did not feel. It is always an iffy thing with the election board, but people did not feel that the election board was deserving of the full amount of the full amount, considering like this was back when Senate stipends were still $541. So like
back in the day.
So yeah, so like back then it was kind of rough for especially a senator or finance board representative to say that they are deserving of $1,000 for what was essentially back then. It wasn't a month of work. It was about two and a half months of work.
Okay.
So that was the whole reasoning behind cutting it back in the first place.
Right.
And then that same year they raised Senate stipends to $585, and now it's been raised to $704. It's just like, yeah.
Which is why.
I would say like in the case of that where there's precedence for that it was at 1,000, I would say it's okay to increase it to 1,000 for FY19 and then slowly increase it after that, but not do it. It's weird, the process for increasing it for an amount 2 years later now, cutting it back and doing the same thing over again, especially on the basis of what it's for, is just weird. But I think it should increase for next year, but not for this year when it's already finalized. What do you mean? Like, if it's 878 now, and we're going back and changing that, or like adding to it,
I think also thinking about the way the SGA culture is changing around elections a little bit of like things becoming more organized and stuff like that also makes me feel okay to up it, but not similar to you back to 1,000 and then slowly increasing it.
I'm kind of agreeing with Miles' sentiment. It's kind of, to me, like the fact that we just keep talking about this position, like when I talk about like the position, we're talking more about Sophia at the moment. It just makes me feel uncomfortable because it's like it seems like we keep changing. It seems like
the narrative around it.
Yeah, and like this, like the budget keeps changing based off of like how the previous election board was. So it makes it seem like we're like basing it off other people, like other people's work rather than what's expected of them. And it's like we don't do that. It doesn't seem like we do that in our own positions. Like we're increasing it because it's like, you know, we deserve to be more equitable. But it seems like for these election board, it's like, oh, well, the past election board wasn't good, so we're going to decrease it. And then we don't know how the next one's going to be, so we'll increase, but not too much. And then it's like, oh yeah, we increased Sophia's because she was on the election board before. So it's kind of just like, why? It just makes me really uncomfortable.
I understand that. the reasoning behind it, like for next year, the next year's numbers are like numbers currently,
Yeah.
but they can and probably should change based on the number of board members that the election board and the nominating committee for next year want to have.
Mhm.
So election board chair and the nominating committee want to have.
Right.
So I put those numbers up more so for balancing the budget.
Okay.
So like for FY19, and with the understanding that they will likely change
Mhm.
it will likely change depending on the person that the individuals that are elected. So that's primarily it. It wasn't like, hey, raise it then cut it again. It's like raise it with reason. The main reason is we have a larger board and we have a very experienced election board chair. That's
See,
why.
I just don't like that. The fact that it's a very experienced election board chair is
Sure.
kind of like.
Yeah. I have no issue with the board members getting 275. That
Sure.
doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of them. That's a reasonable amount
All
for
right.
the amount of work they do. But it's the chair that I have issues with.
All right. That's
Is it okay to move on to
amended.
Miriam?
Yeah, that's what.
Okay, Miriam.
I'm basically gonna echo Jordan. I don't like. It sounds so. To address what you said about the previous election board, I know this is like fiscal year, whatever. That's like not even in this like, I guess, and so close to this history of SGA right now. But like, how exactly you said that you knew that you guys basically measured the election board's productivity and said XYZ does not deserve what they did,
Mhm.
right? So how exactly were you able to quantify their work, or not you specifically, but like how exactly was their
The
work?
whole Senate, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like quantified, and how exactly did they like say? They
Just
don't-
based
Yeah.
it was solely based on time. And well, I'm sorry, I know David wants to talk. But yeah, it was solely based on time in office, which is a challenge because like while everyone else is technically elected for a full year, hopefully, some people are not elected for a full year. The idea was that why should someone that's working for a full year get 541 versus the election board chair that works for
Getting double, basically.
Right.
you're getting double that in a shorter amount of time. That was the whole reason behind cutting that.
So you're still like you were just basically comparing the Senate and like election board like back then.
Yes, back then,
But, like,
which is very dangerous
Yeah, yeah.
because like you cannot say that it's the same work level. The election is very condensed and a lot of work in a very tight amount of time. So
But also like it was decided that they were going to get a budget, like or not a budget, a stipend increase after their performance, right?
yes,
So why exactly are we like trying to increase the stipend before the performance, based on the assumption of last
Yeah.
year's performance?
so that was like pretty faulty back then, in one respect, in my opinion. But one of the big things was that it was very difficult for us to search for an election board chair. Like it was very tough to find someone that matched like the prior experience and qualifications out of all the people, because there are multiple people that you didn't see that have been on election boards or have been chairs that are still students here, and no one like wanted to do it. So it was about like striking that balance and trying to see how we can like negotiate and things like that. And that's what we agreed on. So
one more.
Can I actually take a jump in?
Okay.
I just wanted to say that a few years ago, the election board failed spectacularly.
it was crazy.
Spectacularly. And a couple of times over a 3-year period. And so I imagine that the SGA legislators had that in their minds as they thought about the workload. It's not just a matter of workload, it's a matter of what exactly has been delivered for that investment of stipend money. However, part of the lesson that comes from that is an election board chair, in ways that it is not true of anybody other than your president and treasurer, holds the fate of the organization in his or her hands. Absolutely. There are ways that a renegade election board chair can drive this organization into the ground, and did, in the eyes of students and faculty and staff in ways that have been those for years. So it seems to me that even the bad performance of those other election board chairs is an argument for having enough of a stipend that you're not going to lose your very best candidates because you're not compensated fairly.
Okay.
Choose well.
So to address that,
Sure.
I still think like even though we have like, I still think it's like I don't know how to put this. I still think it's based off of Sophia, and I think like that's fine, but
It should be done across the board.
Yeah,
Mhm.
shouldn't be like our only like
Right.
or our main like driving point as to why we should increase it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I think all of you sum up why I think an increase to 1,000 is fair until after next year, the next setting can evaluate whether or not the performance of election boards is supported. So, similarly to how we do our own stipends.
I mean, our own stipends are also based off of our performance, and a little more indirectly, but pretty much, yeah.
Several things that has don't quite recall if it's been mentioned, but like Sophia's been the only person who's been able to attest
Correct.
to the work that's to be done. Another thing is that the election board, everyone in the election board are not subject to the stipend review committee, so they get paid what they get paid regardless. Also that I'm chill with either 1,000 or 1,100. I would say 1,000 because if we're going off the premise of slowly increasing everyone's stipends to be equitable, I think the election board should also fall under that. But I'm chill with it.
Alright, I'm going to take the.
I was going to ask if Anisha, would you mind commenting since you were in the nominating committee meeting?
So
Wait, hold on. I had a answer before.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Brandon, I think we're going to keep having the conversation.
Yeah, I had a question about how the number 11,000 came to be. If I heard correctly before, you mentioned that it was an agreed upon amount that Sophia had asked for to like return or something like that, or like.
Well, it was a negotiated amount because the original amount was higher than that. But, so it's like an agreement.
But that means it's not contract too.
Huh?
When we got some people money to come back.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do to get someone in here to run the election.
So like we all have to say in that too.
I mean, and it was agreed upon at the nominating committee meeting. That's what, yeah.
So, you know, so did we agree to raise it or agree to like think about it?
Agreed. It's great.
To raise it.
Yes. So that's why we had the discussion before all the confirmations.
Okay. Jordan, did you have your hand up?
I don't think I do.
Okay. If so,
I really don't remember.
if so, re-raise it. Miles and Marianne.
So I'm trying to get the timeline of events about it. So Sophia came to SGA before we heard her had confirmations to ask for the increase in
No, okay, so back up.
Okay.
Fall semester.
Fall semester.
Put out a call
Mhm.
to every potential person that is qualified, what people would consider qualified
Mhm.
for the election board chair position.
Okay.
No one bid.
Okay.
I remember.
Zero people bid. I then reach out to Sophia
Mhm.
and ask her if she'd be willing to consider it.
Yeah.
She said she would. We had a discussion about like the expectations for the election, which we did. And then when we came back, we had the discussion of, well, the stipend used to be this, and it's also not, the stipend current of 878 does not match the workload that the election board chair has to do specifically. The election board chair has to do a lot more than the members. Could we, if the discussion was that if I were to take on this position, will you agree to work with everyone to raise the stipend? And I said I would be completely fine. Again, it's also a big challenge, because I know we have the money because we've saved the money in like many other places, and like us needing an election board chair because it's January at this point. So made the agreement, handled the negotiations, and now like months later we are where we are here.
I know. Sorry, I know there's like 3, 4 of us who were there, but like, did we talk about that during her confirmation?
I know we did because we took it out of her legislation, I believe, and I
Yep.
disagreed with an increase.
Okay.
So that's where I'm kind of confused.
Because like that information.
We had like a separate discussion about it too. Not just
Right, but it's hard to hold the same Senate to the same accountability
Agreed.
to pay Sophia $1,100 when we're all different too.
Agreed.
I think
If we make it $1,000, no one will be opposed.
yeah.
All right. We'll just say it like that.
Just basically to jump off of David's point about like paying people for the work that they do. I don't even know if that was your point. I forgot. I got the gist of your point. I just can't summarize it. Basically paying people for what they're qualified for. So you basically threw the line. No one bid. Sophia did, and you like decided that you were going to negotiate with her for her to come back, which is completely like reasonable considering the fact that she did a good job last semester. So I understand that, but I also feel like to echo Lily's point about like us having a say, like now we basically like said yes, so we're going to increase it. Now we're discussing here that we're possibly not going to, right? Which is
I mean,
problematic.
you can still increase it, just not by as much. Like which is.
But then I feel like a promise was let down that was
Yeah.
I mean, I already texted her, so like
Okay.
she's cool with it. Like trust.
Because I feel like
That's
the
what I want.
Senate is like holding now, like whether.
No, do not feel again.
So
Do not feel back into a corner.
Yeah.
Do not feel back into a corner. Like this is like a decision. So yeah.
I mean, I was on the nominating committee when we talked about it, and there are 2 things that we considered when we looked at Sophia's confirmation. One, we had no one else. The election has not been pretty in the past. It has not been pretty for a long time, and a lot of people don't even want to be associated with voting in the election, much less running it. And so when we talked to Sophia, we all understood, having campaigned in an election, what the workload was in terms of how much time they put in to make sure that it stayed civil. And so there was that understanding that the 848 wasn't as fair to their workload. And when we talked to Sophia, because she attested to that, it seemed very rational as well. It was the same thing as SCP putting towards their calculations. When they thought it through, it seems very rational. I can agree with the idea of like why it might look weird to increase it one year and then decrease it the next year. So I'm also with Gerardo on this. I think that we should slowly increase it because the election board chair does need an incentive to be there because it's a really important position. It's really, really important. And the fact that we didn't have anybody this year besides, and we had to convince Sophia to come back, and she came back from study abroad to do this, so there was a lot for her to come back to in her senior year to do that. So the fact that we had to convince someone is worrisome for the future.
I just wanted to clarify that integrity was no longer an issue on this.
What do you mean?
Being like promising the $1,100 and now giving her $1,000 instead. Like,
I mean,
I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Well,
Yes.
she knew that it would have to go through Senate.
Okay.
So, Carly?
I'm personally, I agree with Eduardo. I'm in favor of either the 1,100 or the 1,000. But it seems more fair to do like 1,000 as like a steady increase. Yeah, I'm in favor of the increase. I can't speak on the rest of the behalf of the finance board because I don't know how they feel. They're not here. They haven't discussed this with me. It's not my problem. So, but I'm totally fine with the increase as well. I believe.
All right.
Great.
I want to take a straw poll to see which way people like voted, like leaning towards. For those of you that don't know, the straw poll is just like an informal registration of like how how you would vote if it was an actual vote.
Are we voting for?
I was about to give you options. Okay, so option 1, keeping it at 1,100 that Josh proposed. Option 2, I'm hearing 1,000 and keeping it gradually as the years go by. Option 3, keeping it at 878. So everybody understand the option?
Repeat option
Option 2 is increasing it to 1,000 and year by year reevaluating if it should increase, as a few of us have said. Does that make sense? Okay. So those of you for option 1, increasing it to 1,100. Raise your hand. You have to pick one, not both. Okay. Yeah, I know. Andy's like, this is hard. All right. Option. What's up? Option 2.
Option 1.
You want option 1 of 1,100. All right. Option 2 of increasing it to 1,000 and then gradually increasing it year by year if you prefer it. And option 3. And Justin's not here.
So you mentioned for option 1 it was like or option.
You're okay.
Option 1 was keeping it at 1,000 and gradually increasing it,
Option 1 was keeping it at what Josh proposed of 1,100.
and then like keeping it like that, or and not increasing.
It was just increasing it to whatever Josh wanted to do for next year.
But for only this.
I'm just saying for this next fiscal year, yeah.
So
No, you're okay.
It's like leaving it as is.
okay, but then for
Both
next.
Because I'm just worried about next year. Because technically the year after it would go back to 1,000.
1,000.
Josh's proposed.
Oh, okay, okay.
So either we bring it down to what he proposed for the following year and just gradually increase it, or jump and then jump back down. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stick with mine.
Option 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So a lot of you would go with 1,000.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Can we amend this legislation?
I do want to have the conversation of though, those of you for, is another one. So option 1 for election board members, the pot of it going to, is that okay? So if we decrease her to 1,000, is it okay to still keep them at 2,200?
Yes.
Okay. So option 1 would be election board members, their pot increasing since they're a bigger group to 2,200. Or option 2. Well, I don't know.
What?
I just want to know if you guys think we should change it or not. Okay. So 1, keep it at 2,200, which Josh proposed for next year for the amount of election board members we have, so they get 275 each. Or decreasing it.
Okay.
That's the option. Option 1. What's that for?
I'm proposing.
Okay.
Okay.
So the election board member body has increased. Therefore, that's why they're proposing an increase, and they'll get paid a little bit more that's equitable with what they do.
Which is agreed upon in the nominating committee.
Right.
Which is what?
So
Okay.
we're still technically increasing Sophia if we go with 1,000. So
Right.
my question is, do we increase their pot so that they're also earning a little bit more to 275 per stipend, their stipend being dispersed, or cutting it down?
To
Some number we would
cutting
agree
it
on.
down from the 1,500.
Cutting it down from the proposed
To the 22.
2,200, because that's what we did with Sophia. Sorry, that wasn't clear. So we would cut it down from the 2,200 that Josh proposed. Okay, so raise your hand for option 1, keeping it at 2,200. And option 2, cutting it down from this proposed number. Do you guys want to? I just want to know more.
I wanted to ask about the previous members of the electoral board, if it was less than 8.
It's never been 8.
So what was it previous?
It's been, it depends on each year. It's been 7, it's been 6, it's been 4.
They needed a
Yeah.
tiebreak. They needed a tiebreak, that's why we added the 8th person.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if there was some sort of tie, we would be stuck.
Before what happened with the election board, before last year's constitutional amendment, before what happened was that the election board chair had the sole discretion to choose how much each member got for their stipend. So they could say this person gets $10, this person gets $200. It was entirely up to the chair. Now it is evenly split amongst all the members.
Is the election board members a set number that they have to fill, or is it up to their discretion?
So the nominating committee chooses how many election board members there are, but there has to be a minimum of 6. So that's what the number was before. That's what the 1,500 was based on before. So, I mean, kind of no. So yeah.
So like, are we gonna have to go if next year's election board has only 6 people as opposed to 8 now? Are we gonna have to go and like decrease that to like match that number?
Or you it's always kind of iffy because there's no like set number. It's not like Senate and Finance Board where we have set numbers, and like everyone makes only a certain amount of money.
Right.
So it's kind of.
I would equate it similarly to your branch pot in terms of like how you pay your.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't really go anywhere.
Okay.
David, is that fair?
And there's an important difference between setting a budget and setting the stipend. Right, the budget decision makes the money available, but for each of those stipends, the Senate's going to have to approve it.
No, it's in the guiding documents that it will be split evenly amongst all the members. Yes, now it is. I'm not saying whether or not I think that's a good idea, but yes. So no matter how many members we have, it will always be evenly split. So if there's 1 member, sorry, we can't do that. Sorry, if there's 6 members, it will be divided by 6.
What are the data documents?
I think it's in the budgetary policy.
Alright. Mary?
I wanted to know, I wanted to explain my reasoning for the 1100, and I wanted to know what Miles's reasons were for keeping it at 878 for Sophia's.
Okay, can we hop back to that once we're done this?
Okay.
The pot for them. Gerardo, would you mind sharing why?
Oh, here it is. If anyone wants to like know
Yeah, that's fine because it's for this.
the actual thing. It's the budgetary policy says in section 12.1, maximum possible stipends for SGA officers. For the election board members, stipends will be allocated to each member, excluding the election board chair, based on the equal division of the aggregate amount as stipulated in the budget.
Which I guess makes sense because if there's less of them, there's more work to do. I mean, I don't know if that's why also, because if there's 8 of them, it's more equitable. So they get paid a little bit less when there's 6 of them. Splitting the work into extra people on 6 people. That's my reason. But Gerardo, do you want to thoughts?
My only reason is like if we're doing, well, my reasoning is from my previous reasoning about the chair stipend is like if we're slowly increasing that, we might as well just slowly increase the members as well.
Well,
even though it might be a very slower increase.
That is difficult to do because you don't. It depends on what the nominating committee wants to say. The nominating committee can literally say, "Let's do 20 members of the election board."
My reasoning still stands.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think for me, 275 versus the chair getting 1,000 is still. Okay, so Miriam, you want to bring your point?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
So, like, I don't know if we're at risk. I highly doubt we're at risk of like, losing our election board chair if we decide to like decrease it. I mean, I highly doubt she'll be like, peace out because of $100. But like, if she was the only option and this was like her only ultimatum. No, I don't think that's the way. But yeah, like this was
the bait.
Yeah, like the deal breaker.
There
Like
you go. Yeah.
the $100, and I think it's fair, especially if we didn't have anyone. If we didn't have anyone else, like it speaks to like her commitment, and I think we should reward her for it. Yeah, but if it really doesn't make a difference, then I don't think $100 would make a difference. Yeah.
But so that's on. So earlier you talked about how you thought it was weird that we were basing things solely on Sophia.
Yeah.
So is that you saying that the board should always get 1,100, or Sophia should solely get 1,100? It should go back down to 1,000.
I think it should. Sophia should get 1,100, and it should go back down to 1,000 because I didn't know before that. Like I thought we were basing it off of her performance last election, and we were saying like she's going to perform well this election too. We literally didn't have anyone else.
That's part of it though.
To take it. Yeah.
Yeah,
we
okay.
literally like didn't have anyone else to like take the job. So like, if she agreed to take the job because she wanted the extra $100, which is, I think, fair, then I think we should give it to her because there was literally no one else. Yeah.
Well, I want to raise it. So I think Sophia is fantastic and is going to do a great job. And she knows that you previously adopted legislation setting aside $878. There's something dangerous, it seems to me, about talking about an election board chair's performance and what they deserve, while some of you are running in the election that that person is managing, and other people who have no power to award student activity through money to the election board chair can't participate. Right? So, I know that's not what is going on with anybody here, but I think there's a danger that this
Like reflection of SGA transparency levels?
just the worst case, the least flattering interpretation would be, well, a bunch of people who haven't had access to some SGA money are currying favor with the current election board chair by advocating increasing the stipend. I think there's thoughts about the situation that justifies it, but it occurs to me as a concern the way that it looks. And it seems to me that if you're settling on a number of 1,000 for next year with increases into the future, that
can be justified. A little bit more than
you're saying that's what the election board chair should get based on all of the considerations, not what this particular election board chair should get because we like her. And I say that again, Sophia has been probably the best election board chair that I've worked with. So she's earning whatever you end up getting on the stipend. But the process is questionable.
So it was discussed. Her stipend prior to this was discussed with Josh, right? So like, do you think that or like with Josh and the nominating committee,
and technically the Senate at the time.
and technically the Senate at the time, so like last semester.
So yeah,
So yeah. Mm-hmm. So do you feel like that was more ethical than now?
No,
Yeah.
because
No, was it
it
like
still
the
would
same
have
thing?
come up.
Yeah.
It still would have come up either way. Josh, Miles, Jordan.
If people want, I know I put a cut in here because this is I'm basing the numbers for next year off of like a gradual increase, taking into account that this year's an anomaly. If people want, you can put 1,100 and 2,200 for next year as well. That's completely fine. There's a $300 difference. That doesn't make that much of a dent in the rest of the larger SGA budget.
Miles, Jordan, Nisha.
I think you brought up that you wanted to hear my
Yeah.
reasoning for the 878 thing. And I think it's just like a matter of commitment, like regardless of how well or whatever Sophia or any election board member is doing, I feel like if it was 878 in her confirmation and she's fulfilling those duties, then she should get 878 throughout. So like if I went and was like secretary all this year, and then next year so I'm gonna have a secretary, I don't want to do it, and they were like, you want to be secretary again? And I was like, maybe for like a couple extra dollars. Like that's not cool. So it's like, why should that?
To the person in the role.
But like, why should that? I don't know. I personally don't like setting that kind of a precedent, but I do understand that she does do a good job, and she should be compensated for it. But I think that if her problem is that the election board chair should be paid more for their work, then the increase in the stipend should reflect for the next year, for the next election board cycle, like every other cycle does.
Okay. That can
So
I'm
sorry.
gonna raise my hand.
go ahead and do this.
Okay, sorry. Jordan Maisha, Marion.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I really hope, out of this discussion, I really want to see more of an expectation behind the election board and the election board chair. I think we keep talking about kind of these hypothetical things, but I feel like there should be just more accountability. I don't even know how you can get accountability within the election board, but I guess it seems like at the rate it's going now, we should kind of try to set up some kind of thing, some kind of structure to be to just keep the expectations of the election board to be consistent throughout the years, going further. And I feel like this wouldn't be a problem later on if it was consistent.
Is it Jordan talking to that?
I mean, it's, can you just put me in order, please?
Yes. Okay, I have Marion, oh my gosh, you're Manisha, Marion, Josh, Arroyo.
I want to ask one thing before I say one thing. So, what are we looking to get out of tonight's discussion about this? Are we looking for a vote, or are we doing that next week? Is this just a conversation?
Yeah, so my goal was to present SFP this week with our budget.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I want to say one thing in response to Miles' point about keeping it the same this year. I understand what you're saying about commitment, but at the same time, this is going to be a very frank perspective. I'm also graduating senior, and from Sophia's perspective, there's a lot of other things she could have done when she came back from studying abroad. We're about to graduate, we're about to try and find jobs. I agree with you that yes, it's about commitment, but for her to come back in this position when she could have, when the opportunity cost of taking something else that would have helped her save money to graduate and be able to afford things when she leaves UBC. I think that's very committed of her already. And I think it's not, the conversation in my mind is not about whether Sophia deserves the money. I think it's about what the stipend, whether the stipend accurately represents the work. And Sophia opened the conversation. And I think I guess I'm getting a little bit frustrated with this talk about Sophia being the one who deserves it, but really I think the way that she explained it to us at the nominating committee was that it wasn't her as a person, it was the position itself deserved a stipend increase because of the work that it demanded and the amount of time it put into it. And I think for her to come back, yes, it's kind of different than how we've done it in the past, but for her to come back, and since we know that I personally believe that that's the level, that I agree, we need to increase it because of the work that's being put in by any election board chair. That's why I think that increasing it for her is not morally or ethically wrong, or it doesn't depart from those ideals, because it's really just reflecting that we put value into this position.
I have a response to that. Yeah, sure. I'd also like to point out that Sophia, even in last year's budget discussions, was advocating for a stipend of at least $1,100, even though she did not have the assumption whatsoever, like Manisha was saying, coming back to this position at all.
So, in response to Miles' point, so before he spoke, I was for the 1,100, but he did bring up a good point about the commitment, about coming to returning to the election board, or just the commitment of the position in general. And then to speak to Manisha's point about the position itself deserving an increase, I think I want to go back to 1,000, even though it was a whole vote. Yeah, and I also think hearing everyone's opinions, regardless of whether or not it's the majority or the minority, is very important when having these discussions, because it can sway the group, if that makes any sense. Because I noticed that you asked Gerardo and Brandon about why they chose why they wanted the pot. Sorry, what was it? Yeah, the pot. So I don't think my position would have changed if I didn't hear Miles' position and Manisha's. So yeah.
Alright, it was Josh then.
Good, you pass it.
Okay, Maria?
Yeah, I just feel like we're going in circles.
Okay.
Like, I don't think we're going anywhere with this conversation. Like, yeah, I agree, like, some positions may change, but like we keep talking about Sophia, the components of the position, what that position means, Sophia, the position, the numbers, Sophia, the numbers, and like we haven't really come to any consensus.
Yeah. So with that comment, that was where I was going to wrap it up. So welcome. This is a conversation that not all of us are going to agree on, and it's one of those things that majority just wins out. We can talk about it after the meeting and sit all together. I'm down for that, but a decision has to be made and we need to move on. So I'm going to take another straw poll vote. What stands, and that's what we're going to change to. Okay, so we're going to start off with the election board chair. I'm going to do both of them just to end out this conversation. All right. So let me go over your options again. So option 1, increasing it to the proposed number of 11,000. 1,100.
11,000.
1,100 with the expectation that it will jump back down to 1,000. Or option 2, putting it to 1,000 with the discussion and hope that it will gradually increase over time. Or third option, stays at 878 for next year. Josh.
Or fourth option, you can raise the FY19 to match FY18.
Don't know if that was really a point that everybody's talking about.
That's fair. Yeah.
I don't want to put too many, there's not that many.
Sure. Yeah.
Is everybody okay with that, or do you guys want that as an option? Okay, no, I'm just going to proceed. Okay, how many people for raising it to 1,100 for next year and then bringing it back down? Okay, 0. How many people for putting it at 1,000 and gradually increasing? And how many for 878? Okay, and Justin's absent. Okay, so with that, we're gonna move it, I don't know if I have to like be formal with this, but we're just gonna put it back down to 1,000 for FY18.
Got you.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, now for the pot. Your options are keeping it at 2,200 or, what was the other one, cutting it down? All right, is everybody still okay with those options, or do we want to put different wording or whatever? Okay, I'm going for it. How many for putting it to 2,200 for next year?
Wait, for this year.
I'm sorry, for this year, yes, I'm sorry. Putting it for this year, then I guess it would stay that way. How many for cutting it down? That's 4 and 3. Just so. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you guys. All right. Other than that, does anybody have any last words about the budget? Otherwise, I'm going to assume that everybody's okay putting forth the SAFRB this Friday. If you have questions about certain lines, we should talk about them now.
There is a piece of legislation attached to it, what we just did.
It's not on the agenda, so can I? Where is that?
It's.
Remember I said earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so I couldn't find it.
Oh, it's in the budget, and then
Hold on.
mid-year.
I'll have Josh explain.
It's 16. Was there a number 16 already?
Oh, okay, that's
Hmm?
As I
We were
said.
confused about the number in the jails. Okay, so.
What happened? I'm sorry.
Nothing. I was confused why this was 16 because for some reason I thought this was like the change that we made back in the fall.
Oh, no.
And I was like, it's
No,
16.
this is a new one.
Okay, so,
Yes, this is the exact same thing we just talked about.
okay, but for the result, does it need to, okay, that's members, 1,000, so it's all open. Okay. What's up with this? With this evening?
What? Oh, yeah, who wants to sponsor?
That's fine.
Great, thank you.
You're always missing it.
Oh, dang.
I know, it's okay.
Sorry.
There you go. Okay.
Carl, you're okay with sponsoring? I didn't ask.
What?
Sorry.
So this is legislation just saying that we are making changes this prior year that they will be paid. field will be receiving $1,000. The election board members will be receiving $2,200 split evenly between all of them.
Move to approve joint legislation 16, 17,
Second.
All right, how many senators for? How many senators against? How many senators abstaining? Nobody. Justin's absent. Cool. And with that, this goes to my.
Yes.
It was the pot was 2,200.
Yep. Those are 34.
43.
What is that?
All right. Let's get through the rest of it. Yeah. Take a breath. I know. Everybody wants to stand up and take a stretch break. 30 seconds. Come on. I know. I said budget takes a little bit, guys. I gave a 3-week warning.
Can I just give my initiative also go over stretching?
We can, yes. Go for it.
Yeah. The joint legislation, the amendments and stuff are my initiative. Expect more. Period.
Cool.
I also have a question. I've been working on looking at SGCs and how we can transition the next Senate to help them be more prepared. So I reached out to a former president who had some materials and also connected me with the Ganesh, and then also connected me with someone else who did some sort of training with you as an SGA math firm. And said he would have more materials, so I'm going to reach out to him and try to put together something that we can have ready for after elections to transition the new Senate.
Dang. I feel so old.
Miles.
I don't know if you want to go to it in the drive, but I started working. It's on initiatives folder. And then student organization, yeah. And then the right one. So I started working on my initiative for student organization advocacy. And so this is like a rough draft because I opened the student Word doc and there are like 1,000 lines and I was like, oh, okay. So basically,
This is the start.
yeah, I'm trying to organize everyone based on category. 2 categories. Second one's pending because I don't know. But I just wanted people's thoughts on something that one thing I perceive in the next like week or two that's going to mess me up is the fact that like this is already outdated because like League of Legends Club had their election today, so I have to go back and go through everyone's presidency names again. But besides that, coming up with something for each category is really hard. And this is something that's either advisors are going to be invited to, or a part of it, or none of it's invited. Administration is going to be invited to and a part of. So if anyone had any ideas of either category names or categories, clubs that should be added for categories, or like literally anything, just let me know. There's a category sheet in the same folder that is it's this list of student orgs. It's a little more organized and it has some stuff that's highlighted based on what category they're already in. So if you scroll down a little bit, there's like already green somewhere. Oh yeah, so there's blue because those are visual media and they correspond with the blue in the other document. So yeah, just like let me know if there's anything you want me to consider.
You want to know like the website that kind of categorizes them already?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, it like makes sense, but some of them are really broad. So like hobbies is like
Okay.
super broad, and I was like, I don't know how to do this, but.
Anybody got anything else?
Questions? So are you looking specifically into, like, just as a refresher, into games and visual media?
I did those first because those are the ones that I personally like know the best. And so, like some of the issues I was having when I was doing this originally was like, are like the fraternities and sororities something that looked at SGA and their administrative advisors for like, I don't know, like support, or are they just kind of just doing their own thing? And so like a lot of these, I personally haven't heard of, but like that doesn't, I don't want that to like mean that they don't deserve support. So I want to include everybody, but it's just, do they all, I don't know how close, hypothetically, I guess they all should be close to SGA, but like, I don't know how close in actuality they are to SGA, so.
So is your intent to like essentially recategorize the student organizations?
As a first step, yes. And it's not nothing like permanent change, it's just for the sake of this initiative.
You could reach out, I guess you could reach out to Carly since she like does a lot of collaboration with student works, and also, you know, Megan Bench. Yeah, so.
We see there are some pre-cliff student orgs that will like come request money through finance board, but since they are limited funding organizations because they're limited, you know, membership organizations, the events and stuff that they request for have to be like open to the public and they have to be advertised for like all students to be able to attend. So there are like some sororities and fraternities that do request through the SGA, but it's like few here and there throughout the semester.
That's because like I remember when we had something in here for student work, there was a couple sorority members. So I guess I would try to sort that.
So I guess I think Brandon kind of already asked this question, but is I guess the point just to recategorize the master list of everything, or make it more organized?
I'm just doing it for me. Like I don't know if anyone else has an interest in categorizing it in any type of way, because this is just a copy of the official one that's already there. So I don't want to mess with that at all.
Right.
But
this might throw a complete wrench into what you're doing with the categories, but Jacob Matthews is working with my UMBC revamp to recategorize student orgs into actual like tangible things that make sense for the student org. I know that he had a focus group with a few groups of people. Brandon was a part of it also, to like number where you think they would go, and then it's going to take like the culmination of things and just like put it all together and try to figure it out. Because if you do look, a lot of them don't make sense, like you had touched on earlier, that like hobbies, like what does that include? Or like some of them could be like, you know, cross-sectioned. And so I'd also maybe check in with him to see like how that projection date is going. His name's Jacob Matthew. He's an RSA also, so you might have already been connected with him. But he could also probably give you some information on like if that's happening soon or if you could like continue with this. Otherwise, it might be cool to work with him to see like what are already categories.
do you think they'd be interested in like helpful ideas of that, or I mean,
Jacob's pretty busy, so I'm not sure you could ask him. He could probably definitely help you categorize what.
I would also like primarily work with campus life because like as a department that's like working with that has student work coordinators and people that work with organizations all the time, like there are reasons behind like everything. Like the reason like hobbies are not sports is there's a reason behind that decision. So like talking with Romy and other people, including Megan and even David. So like making sure that you understand the reason, like behind like why some things are the way they are.
Cool.
But it doesn't mean you have to stay that way.
Yes.
Right.
Does not mean that it's that way. Yes.
I think part of why like Jacob wanted to do that also is because he knows that they don't make sense to anybody, and he's working with like Claire to like get them recategorized. And there is a lot of them, like you said, so even categorizing them was hell. Like some of them could be music and then spirituality, like gospel choir could be both. So yeah.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions for me?
Oh, I don't have questions. So.
Oh, you would have to.
I kind of, yeah.
Miles, are you good?
Oh yeah, you good. Thank you.
Jordan?
It's kind of about like campus vibrancy. There's a focus group. Dr. Dan Barhart is helping facilitate this Wednesday, and I'm gonna go help just facilitate with that. I was in a meeting with him Friday, and we were talking about kind of like how we could work with campus life to kind of find out how students can be more engaged. He seems very interested in increasing our relationship to like do that kind of stuff. So next year he's been saying that maybe SGA and campus life can work together to do some, I don't know, town halls are a good idea or anything of the sort to kind of just get input from students on how they can be more engaged. Anyone has any ideas or anything about campus vibrancy, hit me up.
I think there's a lot of ways I could go, or even just like offering that SGA and Campus Life can start doing more collaborative events and like start working on that relationship a little bit with like Dan and people that are coming to him, especially just somebody will be taking David's spot, and then the assistant director of inclusion and diversity or whatever. I don't know if they've been hired yet, but I have no idea. So either way, like with new people coming in, it could be good to like start forging those relationships too. And then like town halls or even like coffee and conversations are good too. Anybody else?
Oh, I was supposed to have a meeting with Collier today about my UBC, but it's gonna be next week because Collier's not here today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Stay Black and Gold is gone. I'm still thinking about doing like a resource page where people could like go to one specific page on my UBC somewhere and be directed to a different like, oh, well, I'm having problems with financial stuff, and then you click on that, and, like shows all your financial resources. And, Title IX, sexual assault stuff, like all the resources are there. Also, with summer recruitment for Stay Black and Bold is going to have like heavy, potentially advertising just to get people to know about the fund, especially towards our alumni and those that will be graduating to understand what the fund is and hopefully increase like retention within fundraising for that fund. And Jen and I probably have a fund like coming up soon. But yeah, nothing has really happened yet. He hasn't had anybody in me necessarily. It's all that worked out internally. Anybody else? Josh?
Question for Stay Black and Gold. I know I talked to Greg Simmons a month ago about it, and he was saying there's like still some ambiguity. So is there something that I know you've been planning everything. So is there something just not traversing up the tree so he knows?
So my understanding, Greg is like the person you tap into if you need something.
Yeah.
And we haven't needed anything.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that it can hurt relationships.
I think what happened was when Leanna left, that was her direct.
Yeah.
Who she talked to.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I never got to meet Greg Simmons, so I haven't been able to reach out and have that conversation yet. Probably over the summer I will. But as of right now, no.
Yeah, just like whenever you get the chance, like we can have a joint meeting with him. It's fine. Yeah, but yeah, we can talk about it offline.
Injured my back one time and I was screwed for the entire semester. Okay. Any other questions? Any other updates? All right. Shared governance committees. Go ahead.
Some days out of the way, because like I'm not really in the SGC, but it's kind of relating to SGCs. There was a focus group for Carwells the other day, and I don't know how like did you know about that? 'Cause
Yeah, I'm on the dining committee.
Okay.
That's
so,
my SGC.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you're okay.
You want to talk about it?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can talk about it too.
Okay.
We had two different experiences, so you
Okay.
did the residence one, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So the residence one, I can't remember. I had notes. I can't remember. So I can't remember who came, but I think she was Hartwell's for Houston. Yeah. And it was interesting. Basically, there were like 10 or 11 of us, and they had a sheet that we brought around. We kind of did, and I thought that it was good for information taking. I guess they kind of just asked, basically just straight up opinions about stuff on campus, and I thought it was good overall. I thought the fact that they had a sheet was like kind of like steering people in a direction with not really to talk about what they like any like specific issues, but I guess people kind of just said whatever they wanted anyway.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter. So I'm just hoping that the other she had like an assistant or something there, and she was
note
writing.
taker.
Yeah,
There you go.
and there was a lot of notes. So I'm hoping that they actually like.
So guess what? Those note sheets I'll take, that is now my job for the next week to type them into a Word document. So, yeah, a lot of fun. It's just joyous fun. So yeah, actually, so they do have the packets. I think it's pretty good. I think whenever you talk about anything like regarding a focus group, you kind of need some guidance at times because people don't know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. But other than that, I was going to show you the thing, but I don't think I have it on here. But either way, just know things are being taken down. I've also talked to Charles about like how they're going to start communicating what they are fixing and like how the feedback that gets to them, because they do fix it, but they do a really poor job at times communicating when it's been fixed. I mean, if they were to give you an update every time somebody said like, there's been contamination in salsaritas and we've told them to change their gloves, like that would be repetitive with the bigger things. If you didn't see now, you can get a bottle of water with any meal deal, which is cool. Because I love bottled water. Yeah, Jordan, were you at team? Do you remember that?
I went to one, yeah.
How was it?
It was good. My group was smaller. It was basically, complaints, basically venting about what you didn't like. Was there anything interesting that popped up? I'm trying to think. My group was small, so like.
Oh yeah, I was just asking.
No, I'm trying to think.
My group was small too.
Not that I can think of right now. There's a lot of interesting perspectives, so.
Yeah, so I guess for transparency's sake, this is the way it happens. So we've laid out all the big pieces of paper in a group. So like residents, apartments, commuters, faculty, staff, student band committee, graduates, and then I put them all on the paper, I type them, and then I go through all the packets that you guys wrote in, I write down anything that was missed on the big wall of paper, and then I organize it by dining location, so I'll do like highlight colors, and then they all sit down in a big old meeting, and they look at what's pertinent to them, and they make a task, like action plan, and they go off that action plan. So that way, for transparency's sake, you guys know what happens, like, once you hand in that packet.
So they don't take into account the wildest ideas, because I know I put some wild ideas in my packet.
No, they don't.
So just like.
I'm literally typing all of them. Like,
Really? Okay.
I have to type every single thing that is on that wall.
I'm so sorry. Oh, on the wall, not in the
No,
packet.
in the packets too.
Oh.
Anything that is missed goes in there. So if you said, you know how many times I typed Chipotle today?
Come dead.
I put Taco Bell in mine.
I think that they seem very receptive to like student input though. Like they seem very, very receptive for it.
That's why, like, if I can say one thing, and this is not supposed to sound biased, but if any of you do have issues on campus, reach out to them because they won't listen. But like get done, like if you're like, I want Chipotle and I hate Mondo's and I want Subway, like those things aren't necessarily going to be solved. But like if you have actual issues on campus with the food, like they can help solve those. But I do think they try to be receptive. So if you guys need contacts ever, please let me know and I'll send you to the right person.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of when someone asked a question for something that was already like, oh, this is like broken. They're like, it's been fixed, or it's like it fixed. And I think they just like saying something about it. Like someone said something about the ice cream machine, and the girl was like, it's coming in like next week. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was told, did you know those things run like $1,500, not $15,000 or something like that? Apparently, it's either $1,500, $15,000. I'm like, that's the numbers.
Wait, what?
Look, I don't know.
Wait, for what?
The ice cream machines are either $1,500 or $15,000. I think it was higher than $1,500. I think it's $15,000.
With 15,000 for ice cream machine.
So that's why they've been out for so long. They expensive, huh?
Oh, nothing.
They expensive.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep singing my. So, if you guys need contacts, let me know. Other than that, I'm glad you guys seem to enjoy it. Have fun with your $50 class.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Retriever rewards.
That's what you guys got for going?
Yeah, $50.
Actually, it's Star Wars.
Oh,
Rewards.
no.
Oh, is it Charles
What?
rewards?
Yeah, they pay you $50 for an hour. It's
That's
so worth it.
Can you fix it anywhere?
Alrighty, any other SGC updates?
He's at Shovel's place.
Brandon?
Is it gonna be?
Yeah, brief something, yeah. I'll send it.
Yeah, it's more like trying to keep an ear on the ground and things that are like broader than Senate. There was that classroom. What was it there?
Space optimization course.
That.
Oh yeah.
And there was, the attendance wasn't that large, so I think it'd be important to like share the information. So what they're doing is they're looking at like the new. It was like about classrooms mostly, and about what kind of classrooms people would be interested in, and I think that was essentially what it was. It was kind of like where are we at now? Where do we want to be? What do we like currently? And what we'd like to see? What don't we like? What we want to change? That was pretty much it. And they just listened to a lot of the reasons why we did what we did. I just wanted to like make an announcement-ish thing. I'm sorry. On Wednesday, they're doing Parking Services is doing a essentially an open forum where they're talking about the license plate recognition as opposed to the little licenses on top of our newer things. And we talked about that last week, right? I have a question if anyone is more connected about that event. Are they also going to be talking about upgrading the garages into having like the move this many spaces left?
Probably.
Possibly.
I'd say most likely.
Yeah.
So in the in their post, they're talking specifically about virtual permits, but I'm wondering if that's grounds to like opening up the conversation to like other
I guess
things they're doing
would.
moving forward.
Yeah. Maybe, are you talking about like the common garage thing?
Right.
Because that's a part, like the virtual permits is a part of
It's a part of the truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like all of it's connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happening on Wednesday, lecture hall 5 in engineering room 027 at 3 hour.
Is there an invite on your calendar?
It's on my calendar.
Do you want to invite the entire SGA?
I would love to. Can I do that?
Yep, push the little square thing that SGA Senate. Josh always tells me, and then I just type it in.
Just type in Senate into.
Yeah,
It comes up.
That's what I do, practice for that finance.
Brandon, is that all your CFPs?
I do. Huh?
No.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
There,
Yeah, it was.
Our secretary on.
I wanted to ask, like, what are we doing with the parking services group? The parking advisory group. I sent everyone an email about. Remember? All right, so Chuck Body, the new director of parking services, is looking for like students, like shared governance groups, to sit on an advisory group for parking.
Oh no, I didn't get that. It was 4 minutes.
Yeah, I forwarded it to you.
It's in my trash. It's fine.
Okay, well, I sent it.
Thank you, so.
Okay, so if anybody wants to like, it's not like an official SGC, but you can treat it as one. I said copy Manisha on it, and like I think Rebecca's the only one that replied. So like if no one wants to do it, like we can just send Rebecca Rashford, but like she's graduating. She's graduating, yes. I prefer someone that's not graduating, but like. Plus, he told me that Chuck told me today that he didn't get any replies, and he's like
He's a
desperate.
cool dude.
Yes.
He'd be cool to spend some time with.
Exactly.
All right, I sent it back out to all of you.
Great.
Miles.
Maybe this is towards time for it, but I was hoping we could.
You said on the whole issue.
Why not?
There's 7
People to go. It's not like just senators. Maybe I need to get my kid out of the.
We look at emails today.
Maybe next time just do the Senate. We try not to send too many emails to the entire
Oh,
SGA.
you sent it to the whole SGA? Congratulations.
Pat did that once too.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, we love you. You know,
Dave.
maybe a lot of them will go. You know, you never
No,
know.
you know how many no's you're gonna get? No.
That's fair. I'm just like, people are interested.
Fair.
But, you know.
Fair.
You know,
Miles, what's it for time?
Yeah, I was it's probably a bad time for it to really, but like, I wish, at some point, I wish we could talk more about I don't know if someone already did, but the space optimization thing that happened, because I don't know, I feel like I went to that for like a certain reason, and I don't know if other people were aware of what it was beforehand, because like Brandon specifically asked a question directed at them that was, so how is this like? Is this gonna like affect student orgs? And they were like, no, classrooms. And I was like, this is a completely different thing than I was hoping for. So I don't know.
So the space optimization working group is like a part of the facilities master plan, and also the university steering, like the strategic plan, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's like it's space optimization, but their first priority is classrooms. Like we could. That's what they said. Remember they were saying that that's the first thing that they looked at. It's not the only thing that they will look at. So, yeah.
what's the time element of space optimization?
Oh, they rushed this focus group because they need a final recommendation, I think, by the beginning of the summer on that one.
Is, when I hear space optimization, the first thing I think of is free hour.
What?
Because if you are optimizing space, you might be using all the time.
It wasn't a, it was only related to the campus schedule based on like how spaces are scheduled, like, and how spaces are like used. It was like what classroom style is best. Like we'll probably just forward the handout, but yeah, it was literally gave us a packet with a bunch of different classroom styles, like from lecture hall to active learning, to, like the social science CEU. So yeah, that's what it was basically.
Brandon is how to get that packet out to like 700 people.
Jordan?
I just want to know the different types of classrooms, but I think you just said it. So.
We will forward the handout.
Okay.
There are literally like 20 different types of classrooms.
Does it say like which ones are like the best kind, or like?
It depends on the field.
It was an analysis though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? I can't think.
You
So I'm doing that while I'm aimlessly thinking. Okay. SGC updates. Anybody else? No. Okay, solid. Davy's Corner. I need like a song to go with that. I'll play it every time.
I think so.
Like a jingle, yeah.
It's great enough by the time we get to the advisory report, we're always about an hour and a half behind.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me. We don't need that type of thing
Shade.
right here.
Shade.
Moving on. Anybody have any announcements?
Go ahead and move
All
on.
right, what do you want? How are you doing? Tell us.
I suffer seasonal allergies, so right now my eyeballs feel like they're burning themselves. Outside.
This is the first you just
Advisory report.
I walk outside.
I sent out an email about the SGA tunnel, which actually went to the this meeting. I'll bring it next week. For those few of you who are, there's one of you who are graduating.
Two.
Wow.
Hold on.
We didn't forget about that.
5 years.
Margo, I'll see you outside.
All right, moving on. David Tome, yes, keep going.
It's an opportunity that ultimately all of you will have to leave your party reflections to your successors. I think the thing we have not done very well in recent years is to actually transmit those thoughts to the people who are in the organization. This could be something that you got at the beginning of each year, like if it's the accumulated reflections of the officers. So, yeah.
Okay, that is wild. That is not what Craig.
By hand.
That is not what Craig told us.
What?
Craig always told us that the SG tome is for people that are graduating only.
Yeah.
So it's just like
write it, yeah, but
you can't even read. You cannot see it. You couldn't do anything with it.
Oh, yeah.
so at next week's meeting, I will bring the tome, and you can all gaze
Somebody
upon the
tweet
words
Craig that
of
it was
wisdom.
wrong.
I've waited for 5 years to read this book.
Craig read from it whenever
You read
you
from
want.
it.
So inside, it's all Craig's fault.
Again, another thing that tacked to the list.
Who started the book? Did you start the book, Nathan?
What?
My first year here,
Oh
and so
my god.
I left over at the coordinator budget at the end of the year and got this unbelievably
This was your
expensive-
idea?
Yeah,
It was unbelievably expensive.
yeah.
How
It's
much?
all-
Paper will last forever. It's like nuclear devastation, and that's
Oh
You should have put that paper
There's
in
like a
the
thing like, wow, that's really possible.
what's that time thing? Time capsule. Should have put it in the time capsule that Craig didn't put in the ground for 6 months.
Still in the closet.
It's still in the closet? No, David. You gotta get that rocking and rolling.
They're working on it.
Oh. Alright. Announcements. Who's got them? Who doesn't? I don't.
SAFRB is on Friday if you want to
Oh, that's
check.
also very true. Where is it at?
It is in the commons somewhere. You
That's
should,
really
see,
helpful.
you should see. It's on the 3rd floor. There you go. That's
I think
why
it's in this room.
I'll always blast my calendar on here because
I say
God
FOB.
forbid I remember anything. This is Daniel Wang's calendar, not mine. Mine looks way more.
Oh, that's why it said Daniel was on top.
318.
Yeah, it's in this room.
Yeah. I was like, why is Daniel?
Yeah, exactly.
To this exact meeting. redevelopment justice in Baltimore, 4 to 5:30 p.m. Gotta get that extra credit.
I might go to that.
David and Lily,
I'm sorry.
12 to 2 tomorrow. Alright, what other things we got going on? Let's check the events page they want us to use so desperately.
That's a key report.
The MyUMBC, you mean?
Wait, what, finance what funded events are there? You said on
Oh
Drive.
my gosh. Please go to finance board tomorrow. Carly's always here.
Oh, yeah, what's
Same time as us, yeah.
It'll probably go as.
Check out- Please, I'm probably tonight, because like, I don't need any excuses for this one. We have the dates for the next round of in-person interviews for the AD candidate. So I will likely send that out tonight.
Please do.
Because I like more people to be involved, if possible. Like, thank you.
Better times.
It has to be during the day.
The monument quote on Erickson Field is
Yeah.
tomorrow at noon. Please go support the Women's Center.
If it's not raining.
There's a lot of things happening, as you can see.
Something's on Thursday. It's sold out. It's Monday night. I don't know. I can see it, but it's sold out.
There's an Earth Day 5K at 12:15 p.m.
On Wednesday?
All right, so what have we learned? Use the events page. Anybody else have any other announcements? Because if not, we're going to adjourn this meeting. All right, I'm adjourning this meeting at 9:09. Yay. Can somebody turn off the live stream, please? Thank you. All right, Joshua,
On my first.
you are first. So,
Dang.